Of a rented truck into a crowd of people in New Orleans hours after celebrating the new year, killing 15, injuring dozens more.
The alleged driver, 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, an Army veteran who at one point had deployed to Afghanistan. Police in Houston are searching what is believed to be the driver's home there. Investigators say an ISIS flag was found on the truck, and this is being investigated as a terrorist act.
As Fox's Doug Luzader, the driver was shot and killed by police. And improvised explosive devices were found. Investigators are looking through videos he posted and to see if he had help carrying out the attack. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill tells Fox,
"We really don't have very much information about them at this time. We had some information this morning that led us to believe that there were multiple individuals who were involved and replacing those IEDs.
They're also looking to see if there's any link between New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas.
Police say they have identified the person who was driving the Tesla Cyber truck yesterday. It is believed the driver was a Colorado Springs native with military experience. The person was killed in the explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. 7 others were injured. Authorities say they found gasoline and camp fuel canisters as well as large firework mortars in the truck.
That's Fox's Chanley Painter. There was also a deadly attack New Year's Day overseas in Montenegro, where a man went on a shooting spree, murdering 12 people, including 2 kids. He then fled and shot and killed himself when police surrounded him. America's listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
The Morning Extra, only on Extra 106.3.
Morning, y'all, and Happy New Year. Glad to have you with us here on the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. And there's so many things to talk about and so many different directions to go in, but we'll start by welcoming Front Office Los back. He's been off for...
I got like 12 days.
Yeah, man, you had a good little run there.
Yeah, it was pretty nice to, made the run to Texas.
Yeah.
Then got back here and was here for about the past week. And so, just good to have routine back.
Yeah.
Just good to be back with you guys, including Joe Virgin River.
Oh.
I know. I'm going to miss Rhino. I'm going to miss Tug, but, even Joe.
Yes, Joey. Absolutely right.
As we exchange, text message jokes, during Christmas and then Thanksgiving. It's close we get to one another.
Exactly. Rhino, how are you feeling, buddy?
Man, I am feeling great.
Because you weren't feeling great the last Monday, Tuesday. You're a little
Monday,
underway.
I almost threw up on the YouTube cam.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think so. Apparently, there was a norovirus or something that went around real quick and got everybody all across the country.
Ran through my house.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't catch anything, but both my girls did. 48 hours.
It was a weird thing because I felt fine coming in Monday morning, hanging out here, got to about 8:40, and I looked over at Tug, and I just put my finger up and was like, I got to go. I'll be right back. And poor Tug was like, what's going on?
I didn't know what had happened.
Tug, hold on. I'm not feeling that sexual anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. But it helped me get through the New Year's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then had a great day yesterday. Just so relaxed yesterday, sitting watching some really good football and then some football that, like I said, I just saw some teams I think are a little bit overrated for where they stood, and it kind of turned out that way.
6 of the 7 games have been blowouts.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good because we had some friends of ours that were talking about, what they thought about Texas. And I said, listen, Arizona State, I was like, that team fights. They're pretty good. And we got a good game here in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's the best one so far.
And then I made the point about when it came to the Rose Bowl, I just said, I just think that Ohio State's just bigger.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they just looked bigger. And what's that thing? Oregon's fast, but all their guys are 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
And Ohio State's doing the same thing with dudes that are 6'3".
Yeah.
They just blew them out.
Amazing. It was something to watch. I'd be afraid if I was any other college football. The one team I don't want to play right now is Ohio State.
They
the
are
last
killing
2 games.
Yeah.
Ooh, they look good.
They absolutely look good. Then Georgia tonight at the Sugar Bowl. Do we have a time? Do we have a kick on that?
4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm excited.
So that was the wild part with the terror attack in New Orleans, which we'll deep dive into that today.
Gracious.
But to see what happened, and from the sources that I know, people that I was texting during the time period, once that had gone on overnight, and I remember I had my dad calling me at 7:30 in the morning because we had pondered going there last minute. And so he called 7:30 in the morning yesterday to make sure that we didn't. Yeah. So he saw the news before my wife and I ever did. And it turned into, when are they going to kick this thing off? Because anyone who was in the French Quarter with the amount of security knew there's no way they were going to kick that game off yesterday.
Yeah. But, watching it from just the average Joe American, and you see them break in and say, hey, it's been canceled. I saw it first on X, on Twitter. Surprise there. That it's the number one news source in the world. But, and it took a second to sink in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, hang on, what? I mean, as crazy as everything that happened, and then to see a major sporting event be shifted, that's not normal. That was the red flag.
We haven't seen it since 9/11 maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously COVID pushed some things in different directions, but the Super Bowl got suspended by a week.
Yeah,
and again, it happened in September, but everything got pushed back by a week, and so we played a Super Bowl for the first time into February. In this case, there's a manhunt going on. There's an investigation, and as everyone who has been on the ground, and I've been texting back and forth. We got friends that are there. We got a lot of different reporters that are there. They're all saying the same thing. You have Georgia and Notre Dame that recognize we're probably not going to be able to play yesterday. They initially pushed to do that late night last night, which was not going to happen. Mm-hmm. By the time that they had put forth, hey, 7:45, 8 o'clock, they're like, you're going to hurt us on time getting ready for Penn State. Give us the 4 o'clock kick, and it became 4 o'clock today.
Goodness gracious, man. But that, Rhino, is what told me. I mean, I knew it was serious, and not to downplay how, but that was just the thing that told me, man, this is much bigger than I had initially thought. Mm-hmm. And then you learn about what happened in Las Vegas.
Yep. And
now there's a nightclub in Queens that had a mass shooting. There's something is ominous, feels very ominous about 2025 already.
Yeah, it started to really unravel yesterday. Even the Peach Bowl, they started to really ramp up security yesterday because of what happened, obviously, in New Orleans, not knowing what's going on. And then you see a bunch of pro-terrorist groups taking the streets of New York and walking down the middle of the streets. And it kind of reminded me, going to what you were saying, that, this is a very ominous, weird, scary time for a lot of people because they have been radicalized by ISIS at this point. That's what they say about the suspect in the
New Orleans case.
Yeah, in the New Orleans case. I realized yesterday afternoon, how are they going to play this game? And it came out real quick that, they weren't going to play the game, and, for good reason. And then you hear what's going on in Vegas, and that, Elon Musk was the first person I heard that from, that it being a Cybertruck attack. And it's scary. I mean, this is what we've done to our country by allowing these kind of people to come out and give these pro-terrorist groups any kind of, I guess, just life. That's what we're giving them, is life, and this is what they love. This is the propaganda that we have been talking about for 2 years. We got to stop it online. We got to stop this hey, this is okay. It's not okay, and it's going to continue.
So if you'd be hiding under a rock for the last couple days, there was somebody who has been inspired by ISIS who decided to drive down Bourbon Street, and it's now 15 people dead and 35 more that have been hurt. So the wild part about all of it is what it comes right down to is that we've been warned across the board by people in the know.
Red lights are flashing.
Red lights,
from our own administration, as well as people from who are outside of it, who are saying the terrorist problem's already here.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's being radicalized by ISIS, whether it are people who have crossed this border, your problem is in your backyard now.
Yeah.
This is not being fought, 3,000 miles away anymore.
Which is what we're used to seeing and we're used to hearing. But you have two people sitting in the House of Representatives that support this.
Yes. More than that, by the way.
Well, yeah, right. But I mean,
two are outspoken.
Two outspoken, yes, in Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who are, I mean, for all intents and purposes, supporters of terrorism.
Yeah.
And terrorists, dude, this is a whole new world we wake up. I know people think this is about football and shifting games and incidents happening, but there's so much more to what is happening in the United States of America. This is not, I'm afraid to say, and I don't want to say, but this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's no doubt in my mind that it's just the beginning. We've been warning about this for how many years, saying, hey, we don't know who's coming across the border, but it's not people just looking for asylum. There are terrorist groups that are setting up, cells that are coming through, people we cannot, keep a control of, and then you get Chris Wray coming out there and telling you these things. You're absolutely right. Luckily, we got rid of Cori Bush, another one who was all into this pro-terrorist group. Jamal Bowman out of New York, another one. AOC still there. We still have Ayanna Pressley, who is talking the same rhetoric left and right. Now, of course, I didn't hear anything from Rashida Tlaib yesterday. I didn't hear anything from any of them. Ilhan Omar, none of them condemning the violence. Yeah, they went into violence or hiding. Where's the vice president? Remember the one that said she's here to fight for the people? She hasn't fought. She's disappeared. Why isn't she talking about this? She was one of their main supporters as well, playing the field. This is the danger of playing with these radicalized people. Not all Muslims are bad. Not all Islam is bad. That's fine. We understand that. But until we get control of this, until we find these people in this country, there's going to be Islamophobia. And it's because of the Democrats, because they refuse to condemn any kind of actions of these radicalized people.
No, we'll put the establishment Republicans right in there because they wanted the cheap labor to come across the border and to be able to employ that as well. They don't get to wash their hands of any of this craziness that is going our way. One of the things that I went down, the fun road that I do when I'm on vacation was human trafficking. And one of the things that was pointed out when I was doing a lot of research on it and digging into it was you have a lot of these people that look for people that are vulnerable. For instance, if I'm looking to human traffic young women, I'm going to hang out near a methadone clinic. I'm going to look for those people that are on the low end society that need some help, and I'm going to be the one to extend that help to them and eventually enslave them. That's what I'm going to do. There's not a whole lot different that would happen to this U.S. Army reservist where life falls apart. You happen to have this radical Islamic message right down the street from his home, and before you know it, this is what he's doing to people. This is what the target is. But the fact that you now have this in your backyard, it's harder. And we saw this over the last 25 years. If you want to radicalize somebody having to use YouTube, having to have a message from Afghanistan or Pakistan or anywhere else, that's what it is. Now, the radicalized message is down the street from your house.
And they prey on people, much like you're talking about, the ones that are being trafficked because they're in dire straits, whether mental illness, whether drug addiction, whether just being poor.
Yep.
Because that's another thing. If you recall, remember the attack in Moscow that happened with the radicalized Islamists? They were really, really poor.
Yes.
And they said, if we'll give you whatever it was, $10,000 to go do this. I don't remember the numbers. So
you'll get your martyrdom and 10 grand for your family.
Exactly right. Absolutely right. And they went and did it.
Yep.
It seems that is going to be the trend that we'll see here, because if you have learned about the the man who is alleged to have perpetrated this in New Orleans, he was in financial ruins.
Yeah.
If you read about him, they know that. He went in the Navy, was there a month, got kicked out, then went in the Army, served there in the full-time Army, and then ultimately was a reservist. Both wives, I guess he was married twice, had restraining orders, and so there was mental illness. There was the debt thing. the door was just wide open for him, and how many more people are just like him.
Well, yeah, they're still looking for suspects down there. So that tells you right now, because they wouldn't come out and say, hey, there might be more if they didn't think there were more. And this has become a huge problem. We have to be careful not to do what Marjorie Taylor Greene did yesterday, which is come right out and say this, I got reports that this man came across the border 2 days ago. We really have to look into, who these people are. Now, that doesn't mean that the border's not responsible, because it is. These people came across the terrorist cells. They radicalize people. They bring money. They bring other things to help these people get off their feet and bring them in with the promise of, afterlife and martyrdom, like Carlos said. This is something that is very attractive to these people. Social media continues to blow them up and make them feel welcome. And they find like-minded people and they feel, hey, I'm ready, I'm radicalized. And they find a community in it. And it's very dangerous. And again, if they're looking for more people, we know that there are more people who have been radicalized.
So I was making it a point over the weekend. Before any of this stuff happened, I was checking out Sean Ryan's podcast because he had Chris Peranto on there. One of the guys that was there in Benghazi.
13 days.
Wild story. And one of the things about Sean Ryan, as a former operator with the Navy SEALs, this is somebody who has been talking about, here's where the problem is, that because of an open border, if you're talking about 10 or 15 million people, you now have a certain amount that are radicalized from around the world. The problem, and he has pointed it out, other people have pointed out on his podcast, is it's not the one or two people. It's what happens when they start finding a community here.
Yeah.
And so even though we can point at this one person who, life in turmoil, former, in the U.S. Army, in the reservists, he found a community of people that said this is a good thing to do. And are they all here legally? We'll see. But it turned into, there was enough of a community that said, let's go have this attack over here in New Orleans.
And it's funny you bring up the border and what MTG said, and because that was the thing that my son said to me. He's like, Dad, but because I told him, I was like, so what happens when you let 20 million people unvetted into your country? And he's like, but he was from here, and I was like, realize that terrorists and terrorism is all about creating that community. They find people that are downtrodden, and then they use them to accomplish whatever goal it is, whether through money, influence, indoctrination, brainwashing, religion, radical Islam, which our guy down in New Orleans had just converted in the last year to Islam, and obviously a radical form of it. So that's what I had to explain to him, and I think that's what you're going to see here in the next few days in the media. Is like, well, it had nothing to do with the border. Oh, yes, it did.
Well, there's such a thing as a lone wolf attack.
Sure,
but when you have the authorities who have already put it out in the media that we're looking for additional people, this is a manhunt.
Yeah.
This is a terrorist cell. Yep. These are people that all found each other and said, let's make this thing happen.
Yeah, and it's happening more and more. And that's why we should be afraid to look like UK and other areas that are being overrun by Islamic, radicalized Islamists that are, very passionate. This is a holy war. And again, that's why Israel, and this is why Donald Trump said Israel and Iran and all the terrorist proxy groups is going to be very hard to stop. A holy war is hard to stop. That's why someone's willing to put their life out there and really in a kamikaze mission, knowing that they're probably not going to come back because, it's bigger than what we think. This isn't just riches. This is the promise of an afterlife that they, get bought in or they buy into. It's a scary time in this country, and the more and more we watch, and luckily we have a president coming in that's going to put an end to this, I hope, but look what's going on here. It's very similar to a lot of the attacks that we see going on all around the world with some of these groups.
Yeah, when you have people that are routinely driving vehicles through crowds, the prevalence of weaponry is not easily obtainable in some of these other countries. So what do? They find trucks. This is how they go ahead and destabilize a country and influence with terror. I think about a guy, and I was just looking up his name just to remember him. Richard Colvin Reed.
Oh, yeah.
This was an American citizen who then decided to blow up a plane because he was a petty criminal that got caught up in Al-Qaeda because he was down on his luck. All right, this is what's going on. The easier you make it, the more you're going to have these sort of problems in this country from people that are downtrodden.
Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. Welcome to 2025 with Extra. Glad that you're here. If you have feedback, you have thoughts about the subjects that we're talking about, 404-741-1230 is the number. Knock out the headlines when we come back, and the biggest threat to America, according to Joe Biden. Next on Extra 106.3 in the Morning Extra.
Monday, the 20th. President Donald Trump is officially sworn in as President of the United States. And Extra 106.3 will bring you live coverage of the inauguration and everything that happens next. There will be a lot of changes and breaking news in the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second presidency. And Extra will have live updates from the biggest personalities in the country and the local legends you know and trust. For the breaking news without the spin, there's only one place you can talk about it. Extra 106.3 FM.
I've decided there's nothing worse than getting out of the shower. Because you're standing in the shower in the morning, it's all warm. And when it's wintertime, as it is, you step out of the shower, and even in a house that is, a comfortable temperature, there's just that cold feeling. Man, you grab the towel real quick, dry off. It's the worst feeling in the world. God, it's awful. So can you imagine if your HVAC wasn't in tip-top shape, how cold it would be? Think about that for a minute. Goodness. I don't think there's anything worse than getting out of the shower in the winter. Central Heating and Air Conditioning, they can make sure that your HVAC is in tip-top shape so the cold just can't touch you. The comfort in the home will be all you know. Central Heating and Air Conditioning is offering up to $2,000 in rebates on qualifying Carrier systems. $2,000 back in your pocket. For the best in the business, working with the best in the business, your Atlanta Carrier experts, Central Heating and Air Conditioning. So do not settle for cold. Get the warmth that you want and your family needs with a brand new Carrier system. And save yourself some cash doing it. 770-GET-HEAT is the number. CentralHeat.com is the website.
I am Michael Green, chef and third-generation owner of Matthews Cafeteria, located on Main Street in historic downtown Tucker, Georgia. We have been serving Southern comfort favorites since my grandparents opened the doors in 1955. 70 years later, Matthews is still preparing those same recipes. Come in today, grab a tray and sit down to award-winning fried chicken, turkey and dressing, hand-peeled mashed potatoes, and made-from-scratch biscuits, pies, and cobblers. Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner 6 days a week. Come and see us today and experience the Matthews way.
Hey, Atlanta, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. When times get tough, where do you keep your stuff? Answer, in a quality safe from the Safe House, of course. Don't go to a big box store and get a fake safe. That would be as effective as Joe Biden's fake border policy. For over 30 years, the Safe House has been providing the best quality safes on the market. Brands like Browning, Fort Knox, and Champion. And with the largest selection of safes on display in Georgia, we're confident we can help you pick the right safe to fit your needs. So drop by our huge showroom or go to atlantasafehouse.com.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A couple from South Carolina make the Dean's List who give back to their neighborhood's special needs community. Jay and Judy Brissy love to visit their local Chick-fil-A. And over the last 8 years, the couple has gathered over 200,000 reward points through their visits to the restaurant. But instead of redeeming those points for themselves, they wanted to spread holiday cheer throughout the Burton Center, a local facility that helps people with special needs. Judy is a former teacher and says through their donation, she is reconnected with some of her former students. The Brissys will also be giving up 100,000 points to bring meals to a children's home right before Christmas. Judy says they don't do this for the recognition. The only one they want recognition from is God himself. She says, I want him to get the glory for this, not me. Judy and Jay Brissy, you made the Dean's List. Janice Dean, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your top stories in the state of Georgia for today, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. The University of Georgia has confirmed that a 19-year-old student was critically injured in the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on Wednesday morning. The student, identified as El Izel, remains in critical condition in the hospital. The attack by 42-year-old Shamuddin Jabbar claimed 15 lives and left 35 people injured. The suspect was killed by police following a gunfight. The city of Atlanta played host to the most exciting college football quarterfinal game yesterday afternoon in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 5 Texas overcame 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter to beat number 4 Arizona State 39-31 into overtimes. The Longhorns will move on to take on number 8 Ohio State, who routed number 1 Oregon 41-21 in last night's Rose Bowl game. And the Georgia Bulldogs will take the field this afternoon against number 7 ranked Notre Dame after the Sugar Bowl was delayed from the New Orleans terrorist attack early Wednesday morning. The winner of this afternoon's game will move on to the Orange Bowl to take on Penn State in Miami. Kickoff from New Orleans scheduled for 4 p.m. With your headlines, Scott Rhino, Extra 106.3.
And I do believe you can hear that game on our sister station, 680 The Fan, this afternoon.
Let's go.
The official sports talk station of the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, everybody got an afternoon off.
I know, yeah.
Randomly.
Yeah, there was, obviously, because we talked about the fact that it was so monumental moving this game. And it's like Lo said, it's something we've not experienced since 9/11, and it's what really told me that this was much more than I had even thought in the moment when everything was happening. You know, when you first got the news, you're like, somebody did what? How in the world were they able to pull this off? Where the barriers, they had barriers up everywhere in New York City for the big ball drop, because you had 1 million people there. Mm-hmm. And then you learn that the barrier was taken down in preparation for the Super Bowl being down in New Orleans. And there was a police car sitting where a big, huge metal barrier typically is. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, but the whole point, down the hall, you can listen to the game.
Yeah, starting at 3:30.
Yeah, 3:30, and then the kickoff at 4.
Well, and the driver, as we've now seen the video from the closed circuit TV, goes around the cop car.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just basically goes right down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That's the wild part about it. It's that, when we got the initial report, it wasn't like the driver was, unencumbered from driving down the street. It was like there was a police car there that was supposed to block off the area. And who would expect somebody to with a terrorist attack, decide, I'm going to go around a police car that has its lights on, that is cut off the entire area, and drive down the sidewalk?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, man. I can't imagine anybody thinking that something like that would happen in the United States of America. And I'm afraid, Rhino, that people are naive to what we face in the coming future.
Yeah, I think so. I think, we've become complacent in a way that, that won't happen here. None of that. That happens overseas. That happens somewhere else. It doesn't happen here. But when you have open borders, that is here now. And it continues to be here now. And we've opened up this border to the point where we don't know who's here. There may be many people who are coming here for actually a better life and want to be a part of what we have here in this country. But there are reminders that there are people here who are looking for people like this. Going back to kind of what Carlos said, not only did they find this guy for, hey, this is a weakness that we can exploit, but they also go, hey, this is a guy who was born and raised here, who might be able to get weapons, who might have access to IEDs or know these kind of things. They found the perfect radicalized person for this.
I want to play this piece of audio for you because the thought process made a little bit of sense. But they totally missed because the way the left looks at people, they put them into boxes. And so at the time, Joe Biden said this.
To single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
All right, so...
I'm the most dangerous threat.
Right,
yeah,
the federal government decided that...
Qualified, Christian, veteran, Trump supporter.
Right, those were going to be... those were the... Scared. Man, look at all these labels. This is who you need to be afraid of. What terrorist organizations have done and what has changed, and I give our veterans so much credit, what they did, and as much as you might look at Afghanistan and Iraq and say, all right, these things did not work out, what it did is it took the fight over there and it kept it over there for the better part of 20 years. The fight's here.
Yeah.
Yes, it
because
is.
What has gone on is when Joe Biden was wrong, it is about finding these certain people that can be radicalized, these people that already have, citizenship. Yeah. If you can radicalize them, now you put the problem in the backyard of the homeland.
Yeah, and for forever now, Rhino, at least 4 years. I say forever, but at least 4 years. Mm-hmm. You've had the FBI focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
If Joe Biden has said that it is white nationalism, that it is the things that he said that are the biggest threat to national security, knowing that wasn't the case.
No.
Yet he had his FBI focused on it.
Yeah.
I want to say the number was like
in your school boards.
And your school boards. And like 60% of everything the FBI was looking into was white nationalism. And you had FBI agents themselves saying, we can't find any to prosecute.
Well, yeah, we can't find, unless, of course, they set it up to kidnap a governor. Then all of a sudden the FBI might be able to find it because they're wasting their resources on things like that by doing exactly what this guy probably fell into, which was an indoctrination like, hey, you want to kidnap him? Gretchen Whitmer, we got a great plan for you. They almost did the same thing. That's the scary part. We're not focusing on what actually needs to be focused on, which is the idea that these people are being radicalized because of a virus, a woke mind virus, or divisiveness. It's not white supremacy. It's not any color or any sexuality or anything. It's about this mind virus. If you look just over the past few weeks, look at the crazy the left is bringing us. We've got the healthcare shooter. We have, obviously this guy. We have the guy who lit someone on fire on a subway train. We have another one who's pushed someone in front of a subway train.
Oh my God.
Yeah, these are the kind of people. We saw a guy, and this is somebody who all of a sudden is so mad at Israel that they went after the pack. This guy tried to shoot up a pro-Israel. Luckily, he kind of pulled back. But there is just such a crazy divisiveness in this country. And with Joe Biden blaming it on white supremacy, you failed us. You failed this country because it's not about that.
Though.
Yes.
But intentionally, that's the thing.
Well, they want to make one side bad. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he knew that wasn't the biggest threat to the national security of the United States. He knew that.
Well, it was in their mind. They had decided, because they saw an opportunity when it came politically, to go after the people that they looked at them and said, there's no doubt these are Trump voters. So here's going to be our enemy. Here's what we're going to do. And you took your eye off the ball. Steve Friend is a guy who's been a reporter who's a whistleblower for the FBI. He points out where the FBI is lacking. And one of the things that was brought up yesterday was, you're talking about 14,000 people in personnel. All right, now that's like pencil pushers and everybody else. We're not talking about real agents. So we're talking about a smaller number than 14,000 total. So you have a small amount of this agency that's having to track the real terrorists that are already in this country. Good luck. Be ready. This is going to be happening on a regular basis, probably over the next couple of years as we try and get rid of this and cut it out of our society. It's a cancer.
Yeah, there's nothing to fear by them, by the way, because these people don't care about dying. They don't care about getting taken out by the police. None of them do anymore. This is a death by, cop. This is suicide by police is the way that these people look at it. But again, it's a holy war to them. There is nothing greater than what they can do at this moment. They don't care about fame. They don't care about anything except for getting the mission done. And that's the scariest part to me. It's easy to weaponize these people because they have nothing to live for. So what's the big deal to them? That's the scary part. And for us to just blame it on one group is just so sickening to me.
Add on top of the fact that this is a terrorist situation that we have, because we focused on New Orleans and we've touched on, the Cybertruck explosion in front of Trump Tower or the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. But you have to realize it's not just terrorism. There is a political element to this, and that's what the Democrat Party has invited. The Democrat Party, they are the reason that we are suffering with this because of their embrace. There have been plenty of milquetoast Republicans that have just gone along for the ride and done nothing to stop it, knowing that it was going to happen. But the Democrat Party embraces this stuff.
Well, I had brought this up with Antifa. I always said that Antifa was a weapon of the left until it wasn't, until the dog turns to bite you. And what has gone on in this country is that this unfettered amount of people that you're having roll in here, it's all well and good. It looks really good for future prospects and winning future elections until it turns to bite you. And so now, between what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas, we are talking about a 37-year-old who looks as white as you, Tug. Another former veteran that somewhere along the lines was inspired by ISIS, according to these police officers that pointed out what's going on there. So it's a cancer that you led into this country, and it found its way into certain people that you go, how did that happen? Maybe it would have been harder if they just tried to do it through YouTube, but they're not. It's because it's right down the road from them now. It's right on their street.
It's everywhere. I mean, there's not one city that you're not seeing these kind of protests that are going on.
That's the truth. With the Hamas flags in Austin and then in Times Square.
Times Square. Yep. And I'm not saying everybody that's involved in those are, but I can guarantee you there's at least 5 to 10.
But how fanatical
all you need is one.
Right.
I mean, if you were willing, and let's be quite honest about this, I was not enough of a believer in 2020 to go show up at the Capitol. I was like, something stinks here.
Yeah.
This is screwy. This was wrong. And yet, after 81 million votes from Joe Biden, I was not willing to go to the Capitol and tell people, hey, I think this country is rotten. I think something crazy happened. Mm-hmm. But there was a small percentage of people that were.
Yep.
Okay, so go to the other side of it. You're letting in all of these people. You have this scenario. It doesn't mean they're all terrorists, but if you're willing to walk down New York City and cut off traffic and show your flags, what percentage of those people say, you know what, violence against Americans sounds pretty good?
Dude, if you, and this is going to sound terrible, but think about the Muslim population, Islam, people who subscribe to Islam or are believers. There was polling after the attack in Israel, and they asked people in the United States, I think there's 4 million Muslims in the United States. They were asked, what percentage of you support violence against your enemy, violence against Israel to accomplish your goal?
Yeah.
The number was 56% of Muslims in America. That leaves a big percentage that don't, which thank God. But, dude, that's a big number of people that are okay with violence.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the scary part about it because it's almost accepted and it's almost okay. Look what the Democrats continue to sit back and I'm not saying anybody on the Democrat side supported what the CEO shooter did, the United Healthcare, but boy, they sure don't hide from the fact that they're like, maybe we need change. It's not that big of a deal that, a father and a husband was taken away from a family because this is for the betterment. And that's the thought process behind a lot of these people. Their thought is, well, this is change. This is reform. And this is the more radicalized progressive group. They don't, I think, even if you take the Muslims out of it, if you ask these young progressives that are out there in the streets, they're going to be okay with this violence too. How many of them were okay or wanted more to happen to Donald Trump when he got shot? They weren't happy with his ear. They wanted him to be dead.
Wish he was a better shooter. Wish he had a better aim. I mean,
they condone this violence.
Left
is not condone. That's a bad word.
No, there's a portion of it.
I think it's probably the accurate one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather say accept, but I guess it's the same.
Listen, on my end, I'm that guy that whenever that one sheriff in Florida talks about shooting people that break into your home, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, Brandon Judd.
All right, so this is what you're getting on the other side, except it's lawlessness. I'm saying, if I'm supporting the law, you have your right to protect your property and protect your family. So I don't mind how many bullets you put into somebody who breaks into your home.
Yep.
On their end, these people are all bad. They're all MAGA.
Yep.
One of the things that really struck me over the weekend was the craziness of this whole bird flu. And
oh my God,
it's
that's
silly.
nothing more than pink eye.
Yes, and yet these people are using it on this far side. First off, they used COVID to define themselves. They took it as like it's their badge of courage, the red badge of courage. Look what I care more than you do, and they long for that again. Mm-hmm. And when you look into the very weird portion of them, then whatever percentage it is, that condone things, they're like, well, if you're not taking it seriously, I can't wait to see how many MAGA people die from this.
Yeah, they're just fine. Just fine.
What is that mentality?
Look, we are mentally challenged right now in the fact that we have so many young people that we've influenced in a way or allowed to be influenced in a way because obviously the three of us aren't trying to influence anybody to do any harm or damage like that, but there are a lot of people out there that do.
I just like you to go vote.
Yeah, that's it. Vote for what you want. Vote for your changes. Vote locally. That's all we ask. We're not looking for any kind of violence. Now, that's not to say there aren't some far right. There's a guy who, had a whole weapons stockpile that the FBI went through.
Iowa?
Yeah, I think it was Iowa. I can't remember exactly where it was, but again, this is a huge problem. The FBI seems to be ignoring this. Kind of going back to where we started with this. The FBI knows that there are red lights, that everything is flashing, everything, but they're so busy worrying about grandmothers going into the Capitol and searching for them. They're not really focused on anything. That's why the political, the politicization of the FBI, the CIA, and these other groups is really dangerous. Why aren't you looking out for what's happening? We've seen too many failures, too many slips, too much complacency to think it won't happen here.
It was Virginia, not Iowa.
Correct.
Virginia. 150 homemade bombs that were ready to be used in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Goodness gracious.
Vest-oriented when you saw some of the pictures.
Yeah.
Again, this is a crazy person who had pictures of Biden. I don't know but that's scary too, to think that this man thought, hey, this is so bad that I'm going to go after him. Violence isn't the answer.
Violence is never the answer, but I'm afraid we're going to see it more.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
The college football playoff semifinals are almost set. 6 seed Penn State beat 3 seed Boise State 31-14 on New Year's Eve. Here in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl, Texas defeated Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. They'll take on 8 seed Ohio State, who trounced the 1 seed Oregon 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. 2 seed UGA takes on 7 seed Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl today at 4. Catch it on our sister station, 680 The Fan, after staying tuned here on Extra 106.3.
When we come back on the Morning Extra, a comedian goes rogue on the Communist News Network late Tuesday night. Next on Extra 106.3.
Somebody in New Jersey needs to go outside their freaking house with a shotgun or a 30-06 and shoot one of the damn things out of the air.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Military veterans are eager to transfer their skills and experiences to civilian life, but lack trusted connections to expedite their path to success. The civilian world can be confusing, and veterans do not need to journey through it alone. When you reach out to the Warrior Alliance, we will guide you to the best-in-class resources that can lead you toward renewed purpose after serving our nation. Find out why thousands of warriors have found success after service after engaging with the Warrior Alliance. For assistance, go to thewarrioralliance.org or call 404-210-1776.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For half a century, glyphosate has affordably and effectively protected Georgia farmers' crops from invasive weeds. Without it, the impact would be felt beyond the fields, hitting Americans where it hurts, our wallets. That's why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for farmers' continued access to essential crop protection tools so food prices don't rise even more. Get the facts at controlweedsnotfarming.com. Paid for by the Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
This is House Call for Health. January is Glaucoma Awareness Month. The National Eye Institute says the disease can cause vision loss and blindness, which can't be reversed. What happens is that fluid in the eyes builds up, which then increases pressure and damages the optic nerve. The optic nerve transfers visual images to your brain. It is possible to save your vision or prevent further vision loss with early detection and treatment. But unfortunately, there are no early symptoms or warning signs. There's no pain or discomfort or blurry vision. And that's why regularly scheduled eye and vision checkups are important. During the checks, an eye care professional will place drops in your eyes to widen the pupils and check the optic nerve for signs of glaucoma. 3 million Americans have it and half don't know it. Those at higher risk are African Americans over 40 years old and adults in general over 60. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health on Lisa Brady. Fox News.
Keep up with all of our shows and the latest headlines by following Extra 1063 on Instagram, X, Facebook, Truth Social, and all your social media platforms. Plus exclusive giveaways and more. So follow now at XTRA 1063.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra. Glad that you're here. 404-741-1230. Happy New Year to you. Feel free to interact on the phones or on social media. You can find us at Extra 1063 across social media platforms there, too.
And I miss arguing with people.
Yes, it's always fun. Who doesn't love?
I only had one moment. Well, maybe a handful. But the only one that was even yesterday.
Yeah.
So as we divert momentarily away from terrorism, that play in the Arizona State-Texas game here in Atlanta, if that wasn't the epitome of targeting,
oh my God,
where the defenseless receiver is getting his hands on the football and him and the defender go head to head, and it pretty much, it knocked him out of the game, gave him a concussion, then he comes off the field, and the refs go to and they review it and they decide it's not targeting. I was like, that's the epitome of targeting.
Yeah.
To then have the one, and he's so far out there when it comes to the left. Like, I think if I said the sky is blue, he's going to tell me it's red no matter what. But this one guy.
Meaning the Twitter guy.
This one Twitter guy. Again, I've got 100 of that one Twitter guy, but this is the one. Okay. He's like, that's not targeting. They didn't use the crown of the helmet. All I sent him back was, that's not the rule. Here's the rule book. And the rule book clearly states that forcible contact to the head or neck area is targeting. Mm-hmm. Doesn't need to be the crown of the helmet. You can hit him with an elbow in the head. You can hit him with a shoulder in the neck. That was targeting. But the left is so conditioned, no matter what, to always want to argue over stuff that even when you give them the rule book, they're going to sit back and say, that's not the truth.
Goodness gracious. That's why you have, you and Rhino are better than I, because I just don't have the patience for it. I'm not going to argue with these fools because I don't care.
By the way, thank you, Stephanie, who says it was so much targeting. Yeah. Thank you.
It really was. It was pretty bad. You know what? You're in a better place than that. Don't do it, because you know what? It just makes you angry, and even I get so angry after I'm like, these people are so stupid.
How can you be so stupid?
Yeah, so it's frustrating. Dude. But Carlos and I we can delve in, but there's a time you got to Carlos had to teach me this, by the way. Carlos at one point, he's like, dude, you're getting way too lengthy with them. Just tell them something and shut them up real quick. Be meaner. And I'm like, okay,
just let them go.
Yeah.
I over the week, again, I went through a 2-week period where I was basically off, and so I was like, okay, this is great. It was like 11 days of not having to deal with craziness. And so I delved a little bit back in. I jumped a little bit back into it. And I think one of the people, I had made the comment about how when we were watching the Georgia Tech game, and watching their bowl game, man, there were some flags there that were incredibly questionable.
Oh, yeah. It was one that was like
pass interference. I was like,
my gosh.
Super questionable.
Yeah.
My wife, who is a Georgia grad, watching the game, and she's like, that's not pass interference. There's no way in hell that's pass interference. Yeah. And I tweeted that out. I then had one of the other crazy leftists. It's like, well, your wife makes terrible life decisions. I'm like, so let me get this straight. My wife called pass interference, and you decided to make that some sort of indication into who she married, the life she has. Let me tell you, her life's a lot better than yours, brother.
Because you're arguing on Twitter.
But why am I going to argue that point? What?
Dude, I just don't have the patience.
The fact that that's the road you went down means you probably are not doing so well, sir.
We had this was either Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember. You were still on vacation. And Rhino and I discussed it. There was a Harvard professor who had statistical evidence that shows that the most angry people in the world are liberals. And liberal women specifically. They were the tip of the spear. But it just goes to show you that the need to argue and the need to have this dramatic interaction with people, which I want no part of.
No.
These people, they wallow in it.
Well, ugliness makes you ugly. All right? There's a reason why you consistently see that conservative women, in part because they're not emotional, they don't get caught up in this, tend to be the most attractive women when you start polling, when you start looking over these people. The reason why is they're not angry and they're not bitter and they're not looking to start fights with everybody.
Yeah. Yep. Whitney Cummings almost started a fight.
Oh, my God. She was awesome.
On CNN.
Man. Before terrorism took over, this was like the hottest, most amazing thing that happened on New Year's Eve.
Blowing up. We'll let you hear her. She was on CNN with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen, who've been doing that show for several years now. And she says this.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh, God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
You can see the panic, the nervousness, and Whitney Cummings, everything she said was dead on. That's why it made them nervous.
Oh, listen, that entire broadcast, by the way, I was telling Tug, we couldn't find anything to watch. And we wanted to watch live, and we couldn't get to, like, the Ryan Seacrest one to see all the garbage kind of stuff. So we settled on CNN because it's on HBO Max. So we're like, okay, we'll watch live. And it was just a complete... I don't want to say failure because it was a mess. It was a complete mess. And this made the night. And then you get Diplo on there telling everybody he's on LSD while in the middle of the broadcast. But then I went to Whitney Cummings' page, and she didn't back down at all.
No.
In fact, she just went on and on and on. That was the highlight of the night for me, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, she was supposed to roast 2024.
Yeah.
And boy, did she.
Did she ever. She told the truth. That's the amazing part.
She ended up tweeting out the jokes that she cut out from what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about how because there was a ball drop that Nickelodeon executives would not be interested in watching.
Oh, my God.
Like that is like
that one.
deep comedy right there of like, oh, look, the pedos aren't going to be interested in this because you're too old.
Oh, my God, dude. How about that? I did not see that one. How about that?
And again, she tweeted out all the things that she was going to put in, but she decided to cut out, and every single one of them was a joke against the CNN audience.
Dude, I love it. But the fact that you could see that she knew that people around them were going to be nervous. But that's what comedians do, right? They find the vulnerability and they exploit it. And usually, 99% of the time, that's why it's so funny, because it's true.
Yeah, you know what her red pill was. And, the more I read through all the comments and everything she was saying was, because a lot of people are like, whoa, what happened? Or, you grew as a comedian, this and that and the other. And she goes, you know what? Having a kid helps. Once I had my kid, I realized, like, this is the wrong way. And I think it's a lot to do with, like, the whole trans community and the idea, kind of like you said, one of the biggest issues of this election. Having a kid, you start to get the reality of, why would I let my kid be a pirate, a woman, a man, whatever, change themselves without that. And, it just, I thought it was a great moment. CNN is falling apart. They're done.
Oh, my gosh.
Man, they are done after. It's just a mess.
She tweeted out here, too. It said, I've been talking a lot about what happened last night on CNN.
Yeah.
And our brains breaking. That was because I was doing my own research in terms of people's realities without judgment. Yeah. But it's interesting that she said that thing specifically, because that's what we've talked about for how long now? Don't listen to the mainstream media. Go out, find alternative media, and listen to what's being said, and then judge it with your own common sense.
Well, I'm glad you listened to us, but I always say, all right, look into it for yourself. I look at what we do as a little bit of a guide. You might hear about it on this radio show. Now look into it for yourself. Formulate your own opinions. If we happen to share opinions, that's pretty cool. But do your own bit of research on this. And Whitney Cummings, all she's doing is, I researched these topics and I made these jokes based off of my own thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, and then she got labeled a conspiracy theorist, and, it just kept going. Here's one of the ones she wasn't able to say. She was hoping she'd be there after the ball dropped. This is a great one. Can we say it's 2025, or are we still waiting for the White House press office to give us the okay?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Just kind of making fun of what all of America saw. As soon as we saw it, we brought it up. The White House said, no, you're not seeing. Your eyes are lying to you. Your ears are lying to you. Everything's lying to you. All she did was pick up on that and make it funny.
She had another pedophile joke.
Yes.
She said she talked about the mainstream media, what they'll never cover section. The Boy Scouts of America renaming itself Scouting America. You know who else changed its name? Sean Combs. How about you guys get rid of the creeps?
Ooh, Lord. That's the truth, man. That's the truth.
One pedo joke after another. And again, as a mom, you start to recognize where the pedophilia is.
I'm telling you, mamas are the great defender of children, without a doubt. Mamas have instincts that nobody else has. And mamas will then get daddy involved. Mama picks up on it, daddy's the enforcer, right? That's the family unit and the way it goes typically. Love those mamas. Love Whitney Cummings, man. Welcome to Team Conspiracy Theory. Problem is, they all come true. So are they actually conspiracies? That's the question. All right. Thank you for being here. First hour in the books for the new year, 2025. How about that? Can you believe it? You're as close to 2050 as you are to Y2K. We talked about this last week or earlier this week. See, it seems so crazy. But last year, it was earlier this week, but last year. Man, it could get confusing really, really quick. All right, when we come back, you've gotten a sample of what Democrats have envisioned for America. Next on the Morning Extra.
The legend Neil Bortz is only on Extra 106.3. Hey, it's the camera. How's it going? Here's what you missed from the Talkmaster.
These phrases, I believe, are designed and became part of the American lexicon in an effort to dampen down the idea of merit or accomplishment. One of them is the less fortunate. It's applied to our homeless people, vagrants, whatever, and it creates the impression that these people, the homeless, the drug addicts, they just weren't lucky. It has nothing to do with merit. It has nothing to do with character or principle. It's all about luck. If you can pay your rent, make your car payments, feed your children, you're just lucky. If you can't, well, you're just less lucky. The less fortunate.
Catch Neil's commentary every day on Extra 106.3 or listen anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Join A Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Madelon and host Tug Coward for the weekly radio show Back Your Blue. They will highlight special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Tune in on Saturdays or catch up on all past episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at thepodcastpark.com.
No one plans on going to jail, but when it happens, it's important that you know who to call. Call A Second Chance Bail Bonds, where we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Whether your loved one's been arrested in Cherokee, Clayton, or any of the other metro Atlanta counties in between, A Second Chance Bail Bonds works fast to help expedite release within hours. A Second Chance. It's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. Call A Second Chance 24/7 at 404-BAIL-OUT or online at atlbail.com.
I enjoy a good night's sleep, and I like to breathe while I'm sleeping. My wife appreciates that, too. That's why I wear a CPAP. You want the right machine. You want expert advice. You want all the supplies that go with it. You get it all at CPAPs, etc. in Alpharetta. Machines, masks, tubing, filters, cleaning supplies, all of it, and they ship nationwide. Walk-ins, by the way, are welcome. CPAPs, etc. Alpharetta, CPAPSETC.com.
Hey, it's Flounder, and the Kimmer Show is live every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m.
Why should Hegseth have to step aside?
He should not have to step aside.
He drank 7 years ago. Big deal. Everybody has. I'd rather have somebody that made mistakes in life and learn from it than some little pansy that's been sitting in the back of the Pentagon, not doing anything with their life and not knowing what life experience is.
He's a warrior, for God's sake.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
I'm Chad Pergram with the Speaker's Lobby. House Republicans may again struggle to elect a speaker on January 3rd. That's the start of the new Congress. House Speaker Mike Johnson emerges bruised from the recent government funding Donnybrook. Here's the math. The House clocks in at 434 members with one vacancy. On the Speaker's vote, the winner must win an outright majority of all members casting ballots for somebody by name. In other words, the person with the most votes does not win. That's what happened repeatedly to former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So let's crunch the math for Mike Johnson. He could only lose one vote. 218. A failure to elect a speaker right out of the block paralyzes the House. The House absolutely, unequivocally cannot do anything until it elects a speaker, period. The House can't swear in members. Technically, they're still representatives-elect. Only after the House chooses its speaker does he or she then in turn swear in the membership. If this bleeds into January 6th, the House cannot convene a joint session of Congress to certify the Electoral College. With the Speaker's Lobby, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. This hour is presented by Van Sant Law, vansantlaw.com.
Dozens of people recovering, lucky to be alive. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. 15 others are not killed in the attack in New Orleans early New Year's Day.
I also still feel guilty that I couldn't help or that other people didn't make it out, you know? So on one hand, you're happy. On the other hand, you're feel terrible inside.
Alex Berth Mitchell just told Fox he missed being a victim going into a club 1 minute before a man drove a rented truck through a crowd of people. Police shot and killed Shamsud bin Jabbar, who was from Texas and a U.S. Army veteran. Improvised explosive devices also found, so investigators are looking to see if he had help. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill just told Fox a short time ago.
It's an active investigation of a crime scene after a terrorist event. And I don't think we could, it's not possible to take this too seriously.
President Biden offered his condolences to the victims, calling the attack despicable, adding
that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
There was also an ISIS flag image found on the truck. President-elect Trump calls it pure evil. Adding in a Truth Social post after midnight, our country is a disaster, a violent erosion of safety, national security, and democracy. Here's another question related to New Orleans. Is there any link to what happened in Las Vegas, where a rented Tesla Cybertruck filled with explosives blew up right outside the Trump International Hotel?
The vehicles used in both this and the New Orleans incident were rented from the same rideshare company, Turo. In a statement, the spokesperson from that company said, "We are heartbroken by the violence perpetrated in New Orleans and Las Vegas, and our prayers are with the victims and families. We are actively partnering with law enforcement authorities as they investigate both incidents."
Fox's Chanley Painter. The driver was killed inside the truck, at least 7 other people injured. Israel's taken out another Hamas leader as the war rages in Gaza, killing the head of the terror group's internal security forces. America's listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Want weather? Grab your phone. Need traffic? Grab your phone. Conservative news and talk, also on your phone. Get the Extra 106.3 app.
Happy New Year, y'all. Tug, Rhino, Los on the Morning Extra. The whole team back together. Front office, Los was out Monday, Tuesday, and New Year's, and then back here today. We've even got Captain Go Virgin River. Everybody is all present and accounted for this morning on a crazy, crazy day.
We're at a dry dock. Yeah. We're now set back to sea for the next several months.
We are underway.
That's right.
We would call it in the Navy. Out to sea and underway. With so much to talk about, not exactly how I envisioned 2025 starting. Rhino and I had talked about how much hope that we had for new administration, new year, leaving 2024 behind, which was just this, awful year. Let's just call it what it is. It was a tough year for most everybody, and I had hope that was going to be the case. So much so we did a segment about it, and then it happens.
I tell you, it's mentality.
What's that?
I said a lot of it's just mentality. Because the circumstances, the challenges don't change. The only thing that changes is your mentality towards it.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, I had this conversation during New Year's Eve. A friend of ours who listens to the radio station, big supporter of the Republican Party in Forsyth County, and she was telling me about how she got this new pair of boots. And I was like, well, that's really cool. You got a new pair of boots. And I told her, one of the things that I did is for the first time ever, I got a custom pair of Nikes. I'd got some gift cards, and so I decided I was going to do that. Yeah, I know.
Name on there or something? What'd you get?
Well, I got my daughter's numbers.
Oh, that's cool.
21 and 23, so I can wear these to tournaments. And I told her that I'm really excited about thinking about poor Chinese kids being beaten making my shoes. Now, Tug makes this face of, oh, my God, and she made the same face. Now, Rhino has the same thing that I had, which was, what is your mentality towards this? Because we all know these are the sort of things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't joke about it, you can't look at the mentality in a certain way, you're going to have a hard time just like you did in 2024. I told her, we've got to find ways to joke about these things.
Absolutely.
That cobalt in your phone, man, those poor kids that mine that stuff
with their hands.
I'm glad they did so.
Because I have this phone.
They were probably beating on it, but now look, now you've got a tracker on your wrist. You've got a nice phone that makes sense. Yeah. It's just too bad that that's what happened to them.
Dude, you have to laugh at life. If you don't, you'll cry. There's no doubt about that. But then...
You're going to make them shoes.
Yeah. But then
Wong got beat on them with a reed if they don't make my shoes right.
You're getting 12 cents too.
That's right.
Day.
No, they're not. You're not overpaying.
I think
talking about.
We're bringing you in with us. Our new year is going to turn Tug into one of us.
Man,
I said he's about to say never. I never want to be like that.
I have a dark enough sense of humor to begin with. And I really sometimes have to juxtapose that in my faith walk, right? So I think God has a sense of humor. He has to. He can't look at us. He couldn't have created us and not have a sense of humor because we are so bad at everything we do and we continually get it wrong. There has to be some sort of sense of humor in the good Lord in heaven.
I was talking about Sean Ryan earlier, the former Navy SEAL, and I was listening to the podcast before all of this craziness happened in New Orleans and Las Vegas, and he had on Chris Peranto, and Chris Peranto made this one point as a Christian. He said, I look at it as, I'm a Christian, I have a guardian angel, I have God on my side, and God is constantly looking at my guardian angel and going, see how this guy messes up constantly? Like, look at all the stuff we have to do to protect this guy.
Don't fly or draw. What is it? I saw a bumper sticker the other day on the back of a car going up 400, and they were hauling tail. And it said, don't fly or don't drive faster than your guardian angel could fly. And I thought in the moment, I was like, well, you're trying to.
Yeah, you got.
I don't know if you can.
That was me today on 400.
But that's the effort. That was the effort that was being used up Georgia 400. It's just, there's just so much that's already happened in 2025, and it's just day 2.
Yeah,
day 2.
Just wait until I get you comfortable with J-Rod. The alien who was working for us.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get around to that.
Yeah, you'll have to, because I'm not familiar with J-Rod.
No, it'll cause you to rethink some things. I went down some rabbit holes over this break.
Fun.
I was thinking of Rich Rod, and he's back at West Virginia, but that's got nothing to do with
not like J-Rod.
Not J-Rod.
J-Rod's helping us reverse engineer some stuff.
Okay, I can't wait.
Is he working with the Zimmer?
Yeah.
He might be. The Zimmer and J-Rod.
It's
going to be your next morning show.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't know the Zimmer, go back and maybe listen. Was that the last Friday before Christmas break?
That last week before Christmas break.
You can go get that on the Extra 106.3 app and listen to our informant, the Zimmer. Man, we had to use the Burt Show. We borrowed from the Burt Show over at Q99.7. We borrowed their voice disguiser for the Zimmer. And, man, did he give us some info that we did not know about. We had no idea it was coming. Go back and listen to it.
Did Kimmer have to work at all during
he's
this
been
break?
And he's not. They're not back until Monday.
Oh, until Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
Good.
Dude, I'm telling you, they do things right.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's the wisdom, the experience
I
of
was
the elder
happy to
statesman.
come back on Thursday, Friday. This is typical for us.
Yeah, me too. I'm good with it.
I'm just hoping he's okay. I started worrying because you haven't heard a word. I didn't see any Facebook posts.
I did.
Anything.
He was driving his Mustang Cobra somewhere, and he was having a hard time getting down into wherever he was trying to go. I don't know if it was an event or what it was, but just the caption was, he was frustrated by the traffic or no parking or something.
All right, I figured he had to be okay.
He's alive.
I figured he had to be because Pete didn't put out a starting Monday the Pete Davis show. So
right.
I knew he had to be okay.
There you go. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris own the things that you're seeing on New Year's Day. They own it. They invited it. They encouraged it. And then when you questioned it, they called you names. They called you racist. They called you bigoted. They called you all of these things for trusting your eyes and your ears. You are doing the right thing by trusting your eyes and your ears because your eyes and your ears won't lie to you, and they didn't. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris own this. The Democrat Party owns it. I should probably include them too. Opening the border to 20 million unvetted illegal immigrants wasn't such a good idea. And here's the thing that I think that's most important, and we've discussed it before, but it's worth saying again. It wasn't humane to open the doors to all of these people. Because that was the presentation. They always told you that you're bigoted and racist, as I mentioned. And this is the humane thing to do, is to let all these people in. It wasn't humane for those that are dead this morning in New Orleans, and the ones that, unfortunately, I'm afraid, will die in the future if this becomes more common. Illegal immigration is not humane for those waiting in line either, trying to do it the right way, trying to come to this country to better themselves. And I want those people. I want those people to have the opportunity. We warned everybody on this show. Conservatives warned everybody. The Democrats, Joe Biden, they didn't listen. The Democrats, socialists, communists, globalists, they're responsible for what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas and the things that will happen in the future because they wanted it. They invited it. And they said you were the problem when you threw up the stop sign.
There is such a thing as critical mass, and that is what happens. Neil Bortz will talk about it, and we'll hear from Neil next week. Critical mass occurs oftentimes in these communities where if there's enough radicalized people to get together, then they create action.
Yeah.
If it's just one, all right, you might have some one lone wolf who's a nut, but it's not that. It doesn't strike you the same way as a terrorist cell does. When you let in 10 million people, and I'll tell you, this is how I know we're over the target, because the left was so upset yesterday by linking problems at the border, open borders, to any terrorist acts. They're like, one of them has nothing to do with the other. We didn't. These people were Americans. Yes, they were, but they were radicalized because critical mass occurs when you invite a whole bunch of people into your society and they all start saying the same things, which is decidedly anti-American.
Yeah, I mean, there is no justification for it, yet the left seems to offer justification without words. They're saying, hey, come on across, keep coming, keep coming. And then even when they go up there and go, stop, don't come, it's almost like wink, wink.
Yeah.
And that's what they've continued to do. But in reality, it's not just Democrats. I blame all of the Republicans that sat back and refused to work on border bills, refused to support them. The Republicans in the Senate that refused to support H.R. 2 and played the same exact game that the left programmed people to say, that Trump is the problem, that white supremacy is the problem, when everybody knew the truth. It wasn't that. It was people coming across the border that we did not vet. They took away vetting protocols. They took away DNA tests. They took away looking into people and seeing where they came from, what they were were responsible for in their home countries and still allowed them to get through. They haven't chased them down like they did everybody else when they went to go take a picture in the Capitol. They didn't put up billboards saying, hey, these people got across the border and they're extremely dangerous. The only time we heard about it is when somebody else would catch them and then they'd have to go, oh, yeah, well, we had been watching this guy. Why? That's the biggest fear to me, is that we keep hearing from the FBI like later that, oh, well, this guy we did look into, and this year, yes, and not necessarily the guy who went through New Orleans and the suspected terrorist in that attack, but others that have done this, they go, well, yeah, we did have like 5 reports, and why is the FBI even still, like, we need Kash Patel, we need Donald Trump, we need the adults in the room soon, because there is a fear of that.
Well, what you have is the hope that the next administration that rolls in here can not only identify the problem, but deal with it. Because I think what I've now seen from this current administration that's now, we're 18 days left. Ooh, it's so cool to think about it in those terms.
Get out.
They couldn't identify the problem to begin with. That was the deal. Why are you chasing after grandmothers that, might have, walked into, the Capitol on Jan 6th, and yet you're not actually tracking down the people that are looking to create terrorism within this country?
Why are you prosecuting people like Daniel Penny for helping people, and yet the people that came across the border and we have no idea where they're going or what they want to do while they're here? Not even a patrolman after them.
You can't. If I was to tell you 4 + 4 is 9, I can't identify the issue. Okay? I mean, that's the hope, is that this next administration goes, here's what the problem is, let's deal with it. Now, if there's anything that's a plus off of what happened, in Vegas, in New York, obviously in New Orleans, it's that if you ever needed the political capital to say, here's what the problem is, this is how we have to deal with it, and it's not going to be nice to deal with.
Silver platter.
It's been handed over to you, because the American people don't want to deal with this crap, especially in their own backyard.
Dude, you know who the heroes were, though, that I think are being looked over? Have y'all seen the video?
I saw when you posted, and you're absolutely 100% right.
Tip of the cap to our law enforcement officers that have been demonized for the last 4 years. Tip of the cap. If you've not seen it, I shared it at Tug Coward if you want to go see it. And it is a group of New Orleans police officers standing on the corner. They hear, because you can hear it, the video, you can hear it. And they hear the commotion, the car crashing, the screams. And I bet there was 15 or 20 of them. And they drop what they're doing, which there's no...
It's like mid-conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just sprint in to the danger.
Yep.
Sprint in to help save lives, to do whatever it took to secure the lives of everybody that was there, the party goers, the football attendees that were ready to go to the game the next day. Those people have been demonized for 4 years, and it is finally time to say thank you to our law enforcement officers, to our EMTs, to our fire department, to the people that responded in New York, in New Orleans, well, New York too, in Queens, as we know that the shooting up there. I don't know that those are linked. We've not heard that. We've not seen that. But we know there was a mass shooting in New York, in Queens specifically. But thank you to all of them for rushing in New Orleans. Thank you to the ones that rushed in Las Vegas in front of the Trump Hotel when the Cybertruck exploded that was rigged with explosives. Thank you to them.
And by the way, what a wonderful use of a Cybertruck, and then to not realize, because of the way it's built, it actually didn't explode outward the way that the bomber planned on, that it exploded straight up and did far less damage than it could have. Obviously, the driver's the one death, and there were 7 people that were injured. Sure. But the loss of life that was planned, you should have bought foreign, brother.
No kidding.
You bought the Tesla Cybertruck. It wasn't built to explode that way.
And Elon is actually helping in that investigation. Do we have that sound, Joey?
Did you get in contact with Tesla Code to get analytics from the vehicle cameras?
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was locked after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country, and he sent that directly to us, so I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more.
So Elon Musk is already assisting in the investigation into what happened. The build, as Los was just talking about, the way the truck was built made the explosion go in a different direction than it would normally happen, and he's cooperating. Hey, next time we have some sort of issue with Apple, remember when terrorists will do something and we have to get into their phone to figure out, okay, let's investigate this more. Let's find out, where was this person radicalized? How did this all come together? Who else is linked to it? And Apple's like, nah, we can't help. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. Elon Musk has now proven that doing the right thing is good. It's the right thing to do. Apple, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously there is there's a privacy issue when it comes to it. But if somebody does something like this, I think privacy should go out the window with Apple and all of these companies. And Elon Musk is showing, hey, we're here to figure out what the answer is and hopefully stop all of this, because the violence needs to stop. We've become such a violent society, but there needs to be a fear of your actions. And in a lot of these areas, there's not a fear. You pick these certain areas that you know that, hey, there's DAs that are very progressive that I might be able to get away with some of these things. And they might actually look at me as a hero. And a lot of these people, I mean, I don't know. This was a pretty symbolic attack in Las Vegas. Trump Tower and Elon Musk and a Tesla. I mean, that was obvious to, hey, this guy is obviously mad at two different people, and we see what's going on in the news. This is scary. This is a very scary time, and we need to start looking and saying, hey, this has to stop. But you need to have leaders like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden coming out and condemning any of this and saying political violence has to stop. But it doesn't. It's not until after it happens that they come out and talk about it.
This is your hope for a new administration. It's that we've had in this last 4 years, if there was ever a perception of impropriety, not crime, but maybe you did something, well, your rights went out the window. Within this new administration, you're hopeful that, yeah, you know when your rights go out the window? When you actually commit a crime. All right, that's Absolutely. The point where your idea of having, I'm supposed to have privacy. Well, sorry, you just blew up a truck in front of a hotel in Las Vegas. Your privacy just went out the window with this.
Yeah, your rights end where you start damaging and infringing on others' rights.
That is when your rights start to go away. Not with what has gone on in the last 4 years, which is, did you say something wrong on Twitter? Well, I don't know if you're really going to be able to maintain your rights moving forward. That's not a crime.
There is a manhunt going on. We'll tell you what we know about that. And then, of course, the big game that will be played today. You can hear it on our sister station, 680 The Fan, the official sports talk station of the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll get into some of that and just I would imagine the apprehensiveness, if that's even a word. People being apprehensive about going to the game. I would be. There's probably some things that people need to consider as they go into the game today. We'll talk about some of that stuff next. We'll get to headlines, too. This is Extra 106.3. Hey, it's Tug. The Morning Extra has you covered from 6 to 10, and Kimmer's got you on the ride home.
I just like to point out, and Flounder's kind of a witness here on this.
Yes.
What did we discuss before the show today? We do this every day.
Oh, crap. I got it right here written down.
Every day he says, we should do more Pete's tweets. Every day he does this.
I got it right here.
We should do it twice.
I got it right here.
No, we ain't got time.
We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. We're doing it right now. We got it perfect.
Every time. Every day. And he's today. He says we're going to do it at 3:30. We're going to do it at 4 or 5:30, right? You planned this. It's your idea, and every day you blow right through.
All right, well, today we're not going to do that because I didn't want to break up the story, and I didn't look at the clock. It's my fault. What I wanted to do was to get rid of it because I started the story at the last break. I wanted to finish it and then do the tweets, and I blew it.
That's today's excuse.
That's today's excuse. So anyway, Pete's tweets because
what kills me is it's your idea.
I know.
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Look out! I think your health health insurance premiums just went up again. Hey, it's the Kimmer House going, hey, I got great news if you're tired of those skyrocketing health insurance premiums. Introducing Trump Care. If you're healthy and self-employed, small business owner, close to Medicare, even on a COBRA plan, Health Insurance Doctor's got you covered. How about saving up to 60% on annual premiums with Trump Care plans? Nationwide PPO network. Let you see any doctor, any hospital, plus 0 deductibles, no co-pays. The best part, plans are available year-round. No more open enrollment, no hard-to-get subsidies, no IRS penalties. Oh, guess what? It's free to you. You don't have to pay them to do it. The Health Insurance Doctor for decades, proudly serving the metro Atlanta area. Thousands of happy customers. Here's a free number to get a quote, 678-523-0759. Visit healthinsurancedoctor.net. Here's the number again. Again, there's no charge to you, 678-523-0759. On the web, healthinsurancedoctor.net.
Hi, my name is Steve from Marietta, and we hired ATL Turfco to build our dream backyard golf setup. They installed a large 4-hole putting green, a sand bunker, a short game area, and did a full conversion to artificial grass around the pool with decorative retaining walls. ATL Turfco was really creative. They were efficient. The installation was a breeze. Price was completely reasonable, and I definitely appreciated their communication throughout the project. I would definitely recommend ATL Turfco to anybody thinking about doing a backyard makeover. You can check them out online right now at atlturfco.com.
Fox on Tech. How private are your photos on your iPhone these days? Maybe not as much as they used to be. Developer Jeff Johnson has made a discovery on his iPhone in which he details on his blog, lapcatsoftware.com, that has him wondering if Apple is somehow accessing or indexing his photos. His phone is running iOS 18, and in the Photos settings, he noticed that enhanced visual search was enabled by default. This type of photo search, according to Apple, allows the users to find photos of landmarks or other points of interest by matching the photos to a global index kept by Apple. Apple's notes say the IP addresses are hidden, and Apple itself isn't looking at the photo's content. But it did enable the feature by default. Now, one can turn off the feature in the settings. Johnson also found the same feature enabled by default on his Mac running macOS Sequoia. It, too, can be turned off on the Mac. With Fox on Tech, I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your top stories in the state of Georgia for today, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. The University of Georgia has confirmed that a 19-year-old student was critically injured in the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on Wednesday morning. The student, identified as El Izel, remains in critical condition in the hospital. The attack by 42-year-old Shamuddin Jabbar claimed 15 lives and left 35 people injured. The suspect was killed by police following a gunfight. The city of Atlanta played host to the most exciting college football quarterfinal game yesterday afternoon in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 5 Texas overcame 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter to beat number 4 Arizona State 39-31 in 2 overtimes. The Longhorns will move on to take on number 8 Ohio State, who routed number 1 Oregon 41-21 in last night's Rose Bowl game. And the Georgia Bulldogs will take the field this afternoon against number 7 ranked Notre Dame after the Sugar Bowl was delayed from the New Orleans terrorist attack early Wednesday morning. The winner of this afternoon's game will move on to the Orange Bowl to take on Penn State in Miami. Kickoff from New Orleans scheduled for 4 p.m. With your headlines, Scott Rhino, Xtra 106.3.
7 o'clock hours brought to you by Van Sant Law Group. If you're in an accident, make the right call. VanSantLaw.com. Can I say something about that Peach Bowl? Because I'll be honest.
Yes, sir.
I thought Texas was going to wax the floor with Arizona. And I know
that way early on.
They did early.
But that's the thing, right? The only reason Arizona State even gets the field goal is because of a roughing the kicker, and then they go on they kick the 3, and I'm just like, that's not going to be enough. And then the first play, the first series from Texas, 2 plays, touchdown, and then they had the run back to get the second touchdown. It's 14-3 for a long time, and it wasn't till midway through the third quarter where Arizona State all of a sudden just comes storming back. I never saw that one coming.
They got blown out on the offensive defensive line, so the third quarter. That game was not a game until the third quarter.
I thought it was going to be 7 of 7 were going to be blowouts of the college football playoff. We can't get 4 right. Let's add more. And up until that point, and including until, like you said, about midway through the third, I was like, this is going to be another blowout. We're about to get another damn blowout.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
I mean, Texas kind of slowed down. It almost seemed like they lost momentum and just got tired. But in reality, that should have never got to overtime. I mean, you can't have a kicker like Burn Auburn miss 2 field goals at the end of the game to kind of send that to overtime. But, yeah, I mean, it was I thought the same way you did. I thought it was just going to continue down that path. And good for Arizona State. They're an exciting team. They're smaller, but they're fast. They've got a really, really good running back / wide receiver.
Scatterboo is nasty.
But boy, does that kid, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a kid play with more heart than that kid.
Ball player.
He had made the point, because they had media day, ended up being 2 or 3 days ago here in Atlanta. And he was asked about, Texas is going to be focusing on you with the number 1 run defense in the country. He goes, everybody focuses on me. They ain't stopping me.
Yeah, right. That's right. And they didn't.
In third, fourth quarter, you're like, nobody's stopping Scatterboo.
And they didn't.
Dude, that kid pushed across that goal line on that last touchdown, and I was like, oh my, he carried everybody with him.
I'm telling you. And I was listening to the broadcast on our sister station, The Fan. It was Ben Ingram and the King, Chuck Oliver, doing the call. You had Mooneyham. Who typically does sidelines for
the overtalker
for Georgia Tech.
Ow, Mooney.
It's true, Joe. Don't make that face at me.
Mooney Cat.
Mooney Cat's the overtalker.
Yes.
The broadcast was exceptional, and I heard Chuck Oliver say, and Ben, they were conversing. I don't remember who brought it up first, one of the two, but they were talking about how he deserved the MVP. If they go on to lose this game, this kid still deserves to be the MVP. And I was like, man, is that going to happen? And then if it didn't.
It did.
That was a good call by those guys. They knew it was coming.
Cam Scatterboo, while he was at the podium after the game, after losing in overtime, and they brought him the offensive MVP trophy.
Yeah.
Like he was
26
that
years.
impressive.
26 years that they've been doing the Peach Bowl, and they'd never done that before.
Yeah,
until
good for them.
Cam Scatterboo.
Well, I mean, there are some times that you watch a game and you just go, this guy's playing at a different level than everybody else. Look, Ohio State yesterday, they're playing at a different level.
Yes,
I mean, when everything is clicking and you get that momentum, I mean, there was no stopping Ohio State yesterday at all. They even took the break. They even put the brakes on a little bit, but kept going. And it just showed, like, when you have heart, the best players come out. I mean, I saw some of the best players in football become better yesterday.
Board up, Captain Goey, Virgin River.
143 rushing yards, 2 rush TDs, 99 receiving yards, 8 receptions, not to mention 42 yards passing. On one pass.
He had to throw on 4th down that went for a touchdown when they needed it. When they were down by 16, and he hits the pass down to get them to then, with the 2-point conversion, get them within 8. And then he's the guy who puts the ball in the end zone to then give him the opportunity to tie and eventually send it to overtime. Cam Scatterboo, if you ever did anything, I would say you probably turn yourself from a 4th-round pick to maybe 2nd or 3rd. Because, again, the speed's always going to be an issue, but, man, heart is not something you can quite. That dude is hard to tackle.
An absolute
You can't
workhorse.
teach that. Yeah.
No. So Sugar Bowl today, and we got sports, RBM of Atlanta Sports coming up here in about 10, 12 minutes or so on Extra 106.3. But the Sugar Bowl today that you can hear on our sister station, 680 The Fan, speaking of, that, I guess, starts at least the coverage at 3:30.
It's them versus Kimmer. You make your choice.
Yes, right. Well, look.
That makes it tough.
Yeah, and
when
I was
your sister
wrong.
station has the Georgia game.
That's right, and I would like to be stand corrected. Kimmer show is back today, so Kimmer reached out to Goey Virgin River and said,
Well, then
hey,
listen
they're
to
back.
Kimmer.
Yeah. Well,
and then watch on TV.
Yes, however you want to do it.
I'm going to be listening to Kimmer, but I'm going to have the TV on the game.
See, I like the way you bring this up because I do that a lot. At my house, it's typically music. Like I'll mute the broadcast and have the game on, and I'll listen to music. Today, listen to Kimmer with the game on.
That's the way I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I've got to drive my daughter over. She has a practice at 3 o'clock. So I'll be listening to Kimmer during that hour. And then I'll transition to listening to Kimmer and watching the game.
I'm so excited the game's at 4 because I was dreading. And,
I wasn't going to be able to watch it.
I was dreading 8:45.
I knew I was not going to be able to watch it.
It's a late start for us.
That means 9 o'clock for the actual kick.
Without a doubt, most college football games, even with the sped up clock and the rule changes, it's still a good 3.5 to 4 hour commitment. I was thinking the same thing. By the time I watch post game, I'm probably not getting in bed until like 1:30.
1:30.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I heard they moving it to 4, I was like, oh, that's going to be great.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Because I'm not doing anything today after.
Buddy, I can tell you.
I'm going to sit and watch that game and just enjoy myself.
Go home, take a quick nap, get a little workout in, take my daughter to practice, veg out, And this whole dry January thing, like, I want to get on board with this. There was a lot of drinking the last few weeks.
Yes. I've been doing it for 7 years now. Dry January. And
well, you made it like 2 or 3 weeks last year?
No, I made it 3 weeks because here's the for me this is
birthday. Close enough.
My birthday's the 22nd.
Right.
And people want to buy you a drink for your birthday, and but it's a Wednesday this year, so I think I'm gonna be able to. I mean, who's going out?
Are
on
you?
Wednesday
Because I'm
night?
going to buy a bottle and put it right in front of you Wednesday.
I can turn that down. It's because it's not
sure.
open. It's when
I'm
it's
gonna
when,
open it.
when it's
put a glass
poured
there.
and
Some ice, Rob.
Like, here, look, it's neat.
It's making
Enjoy
it damn hard.
Yeah.
Quit making it hard.
Come
on
on,
me,
it's your
Rhino.
birthday. Take a shot with me.
No, I'm going to try to even make it through I would like to make it to full on because I usually in the last 7 years I've taken my birthday off from dry January. That's the asterisk, and then picked up and continue on. But I want to finish it out all this year.
I haven't eaten anything since 8:30 last night.
Well, that's the wrong way to go. You're not supposed to starve yourself.
Well, but if we're gonna do this the right way, just like, listen, I'm gonna make it a point to let's have the intermittent fasting, with the lack of alcohol for like 2 weeks and see where you're at.
Yeah, I'm going that route too. I've decided like, hey, I got to get better in health, and that's kind of why I'm doing the dry January because I like beer. I like ultra right beer, man, and I get so full and fat and bloated, and I'm like,
happy.
you know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna
Just fat and
whiskey.
sassy.
The whiskey's gonna be hard, but I'm going to put it to the side, and I think I can make it. And then at the same time, I'm like, I got to start eating healthier. So I did something really silly yesterday, which was I ate all the candy I could find, all the bad stuff in the afternoon that I could find, and I did have a healthy breakfast, a really light, and I'm going to try. I might even go a little vegan. I don't know.
I'm not doing that.
Not
however,
that crazy,
but
huh?
I'm definitely.
Come on, it'll be fun.
I'm gonna do dry January, and I'm gonna make it even through my birthday.
Get yourself some tofu.
Yeah, I don't like tofu.
Extra firm
I wish
tofu.
I just don't enjoy it, y'all. I wish I did. I don't enjoy it.
That's why you're a whore.
Well, I know. A dirty, rotten one.
That's right. You're dirty and rotten.
That's Joe.
You cannot be
Enough
trusted.
with the bells in there. He's right. Dirty, low down.
Mr. Agreeable over there.
No, manhunt continues. This is something that that was the conversation at our house last night as we were watching the last football game, Ohio State and Oregon, which was a snooze fest, not all that fun to watch. And then Los gave us a recommendation for Molly's game. I fully recommend it. Holy cow, it's good.
You didn't take the first recommendation.
No, well, I would have.
Molly's game.
I would have. We even watched the trailer, which was you don't have to tell me the name's real long.
All right, so the movie that I suggested to you yesterday, which was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Mm-hmm. It's a Nicolas Cage movie where he's playing Nicolas Cage down on his luck as an actor. And it's fun. You were looking for fun.
I
Joe,
wanted to watch
fun
it.
movie?
That movie's a blast.
I wanted to watch it. I got vetoed. I even told Los in a text. I was like, because I reached out to Los and was like, hey, man.
Yeah.
I want something light and fun.
Yeah, my wife and I and Jacob, my son, and his girlfriend Emma are in. We just want to watch a movie. She's going to leave tomorrow morning. We're just going to spend the night out, watch a movie, and cook some popcorn and whatever. And Los sent over the Nick Cage movie. I said yes. I got vetoed. I was like, I promise, if you'll just give me one more suggestion, I will not bother you the rest of the evening.
Molly's Game is on Netflix. It's solid.
what's
for
that?
a group. So that movie is, if you remember Jeremy Bloom, who. Yeah, better part of 20 years ago, he was a Olympic skier, but he also played college football at Colorado.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And he was one of the first guys where the argument was he's getting money from over here as a professional. He can't play in the NCAA, which they ended up making a cutout for him. Well, his sister was also an Olympic level skier.
Wow.
And she got hurt. And her life ended up turning into she was running illegal poker games. And it's basically the story of what she ended up doing. I mean, she was running like multi-million-dollar poker games in different cities.
That's awesome. Good for her.
It was a great
movie. It's a cool movie.
And
Jessica Chastain is awesome in that movie.
Marvelous.
Yeah. Make it even better
Dude,
for
let me
me.
tell you.
She is smoking.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. In the movie, she's absolutely stunning. But anyway, so that's what we did that, trying to just bring Emma's time visiting with us for New Year to a nice end, and Los was good to give us some movies. It was so much fun, and we were able to change the subject a little bit.
Different bedrooms
from the yes. Yes.
Just wanted to establish this.
Yes,
just kind of curious.
Yes.
I just wondered if we went back to American, like early part of American history where maybe you like put your son in bedding where you wrap him up. Then you sew him up so he can't get out of there.
Yeah. No, both are great kids, very respectful.
There's your chastity belt,
of
young
our,
lady.
Yeah, that's right. Your father mailed it up. Sent it UPS, actually, because it wouldn't have arrived. It was USPS, but you know what I mean. But it did help us get off the heavy topics of the day that we had talked about through the game and up until watching Molly's game, the movie that Los recommended. But still, the manhunt, man, that's a. If that doesn't scare the daylights out of you, then you're not paying attention. This is so much bigger than even the media would allow you to think.
Yeah, these are more red flashing lights, right? And today's game, I think at 4 o'clock, you're going to see a lot of security, obviously. But at the same time, there got to be fans and other people that are kind of nervous about even going to this game with somebody who they don't know. Is there somebody on the loose? Is there somebody else involved with this other suspected terrorist? We don't know what's going on. But, this is one of the biggest problems that we faced over the last 3.5 years, kind of turning a blind eye to some of the problems that we have in this country and some of the divisive rhetoric that's happened that has really radicalized some of these people.
One of the benefits that I think that did happen yesterday, as much as it was disappointing that you didn't have an evening game the way that we kind of had planned out and kind of scheduled, everyone recognized this is a terrorist act. And so whether you were there locally, like we have some family friends.
We do too.
Half of them flew back yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And the other half decided to stay. It was just, some of the younger kids, they decided, let's get them out of here. Some of the older will stay behind. To then see that everyone recognized this is an ongoing manhunt. And so why was the Quarter, the French Quarter, having to be cordoned off in the way it was? It's because they need evidence, and then they need to track everything from CCTV. They need to track down who these people are responsible for this and get after it. And so I think a lot of people, as Americans, we went right back into 20 years ago. Terrorists are acting. We need to make adjustments based on terrorism.
I tell you, when I think about going to that game, and I would love to go to the Sugar Bowl. It would be wonderful. There's that bit of me, though, that it would be apprehensive, I think. Mm-hmm. And I know the security's probably heightened to the highest levels, but I would be looking for egress. I would be trying to find a way, from the minute I sit down in my seat, how am I going to protect me and the people around me by finding us a way out in case something were to happen? And I don't expect it. But nobody expected what happened at 3:15 in the morning either.
No, we need real strength and leadership again so that we could put an end to this. We need to have a fear of doing things like this because otherwise the only ones feeling unsafe, the only ones scared are citizens who are just trying to move on and love their lives and do things that they want to do, like go with their family to see a football game or go out into the middle of the street and celebrate New Year's instead of worrying about whether someone's going to drive through a Christmas parade, a New Year's parade, or any kind of event that's going on. Americans shouldn't fear this, but the Democrats have done this to us with their open border policy. The Republicans that, stood down and didn't fight for closing the border, they're responsible for this as well. And if you're not going to come out and condemn it, luckily we have President Trump who's about to take office, and even though he's not in office, there's a fear of it. But why are Kamala Harris not talking about this? Why are they not condemning this? Why are they not shutting it down? Why are they not trying to stop the radicalization of American citizens?
The border is an issue, but to me, mentality is a bigger issue. Mm-hmm. You have had this festering for the better part of the last 2.5 years where being, in some cases, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist organizations has become something of a counterculture movement that's okay with one particular section of society, and that tends to be the very far left. Mm-hmm. They look at it as, that's fine. These people are oppressed. They're allowed to be angry about their oppression, but it all leads back to the same issue, which is attacks on Americans.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan, and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
The Atlanta Hawks played their first game of the 2025 season of 2025 year last night, and lost 139 to 120 to the Denver Nuggets, despite 30 points and 9 assists from Trae Young. Nikola Jokic finished with 23 points, 17 boards, and 15 assists. The Hawks now stand at 18-16 and 7th in the Eastern Conference, and they play the Los Angeles Lakers tomorrow at 10:30. For Extra 106.3 Sports, powered by 680 The Fan, I'm Joe Virgin.
Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra. When we come back, the latest on the New Orleans attacker and what it means for you and I moving forward in 2025. This is Extra 106.3.
Hey, it's the Kimmer. Look out. The Kimmer Show is live every afternoon from 3 to 6, just like the Kimmer.
Every time they mention him, Hitler. Every time they call us Nazis. They insult 6 million people. Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, mentally ill and physically handicapped people who died in the ovens and the gas chambers by the hands of real Nazis. These idiots have never read a history book. They don't know what they're saying, what a fascist is, a Nazi. They can't ever define any of those terms. They have no clue what Hitler stood for, and they insult every victim and every survivor of that. Every single person who survived and every family member who had family members who died in it. They insult millions of people around the world by saying that, and they need to be called out for their ignorance.
If you really believe that Donald Trump will become Hitler and we will all be his Nazi followers when he gets into office, are you serious?
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
One of the hardest things to do is to walk away from a paycheck. As retirement planners, Masterplan knows how hard it can be to pull the trigger on your own retirement. Don't go it alone. Masterplan is a holistic retirement planning firm that works with you to create a retirement plan to help maximize your golden years. Through income planning and money management, legacy planning, and tax planning, we create a plan specifically designed for your life. Enter retirement with confidence. Contact Masterplan to analyze your retirement outlook and create a plan that's right for you. All initial consultations are complimentary, so contact us today and begin your pursuit towards peace of mind. Visit masterplanretire.com. Masterplan Retirement Consultants. Plan well and prosper.
Advisory services offered through Masterplan Retirement Consultants, Inc., a registered investment advisory in the state of Georgia. Insurance, tax, and commodity services offered through Fricks & Associates, Inc., DBA Masterplan Retirement Consulting. The aforementioned are affiliated companies.
Insurance companies know that you don't know a lot about the law. So maybe it would be better just to let your lawyer make the call to the insurance company when there's a problem. David Van Sant should be that lawyer. He used to work for the insurance company. He knows who to call, what to say, and he has your best interest at heart. Plus, if you don't get paid, either does he. Van Sant Law, 855 GA Injury or vansantlaw.com.
Securing America.
You may not live in a sanctuary state or county, but you still pay places like California and New York to incarcerate their criminal aliens through a program called SCAP. The State Criminal Alien Assistance Program is $230 million of taxpayer money given each year to states and counties to cover some of their costs for incarcerating illegal immigrants convicted of crimes. California gets $63 million a year, New York $18 million. Jessica Vaughan with the Center for Immigration Studies says that's absurd.
It's hypocritical for them to, with one hand, hold out their hand for federal funding to help pay for the costs of criminal aliens, and with the other hand, block ICE from the jailhouse door.
It's a program the incoming Trump administration is likely to eliminate, or places that also block federal ICE agents from deporting criminal migrants. William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
The Morning Extra from 6 to 10. Glenn Beck until noon. Clay and Buck from noon to 3. And The Kimmer Show on your ride home from 3 to 6. Plus Jesse Kelly from 6 to 9. And Jimmy Vela from 9 to midnight. The voices you need all day with the conservative voice of Atlanta. Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
You may have heard what Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana said when he was asked about the terrorist attacks, and he started to say something and then he changed directions and didn't. And it makes you wonder if he knew something that he was not at liberty to talk about, but he wanted Americans to know. It was almost like his bat signal a little bit. Be vigilant. I can't say it, but I want you to know there's something I can't say. That's the impression I took away from it. Did y'all get that too?
Well, the authorities made it a point that this particular person did not act alone. So as long as there are other people that are out there, there's always another threat.
Yeah.
And so how big's the network? Well, that's what they're looking into.
There's just, I don't know, man. Yeah, that was my...
But I think they've known this for a long time. So I think there's backlash on both Republicans and Democrats for not pushing harder for our intelligence agencies. And I'll use quotes for saying intelligence agencies at this point. But we've been warned about this for 2.5 years. We've been warned about this from Republicans who have been saying, hey, close the border, close the border. But the uniparty just decided, hey, we're going to fight this out over politics and not protect the American people. So John Kennedy is kind of like, hey, can I say this? Can I not? Maybe I could see that. There is a responsible way of talking about this event, but there's also a responsible way of saying, hey, enough's enough.
There are certain things that you're going to hear about, and then there are going to be certain aspects that are not going to be talked about on a regular basis. One of them was the report that when this person, as an Army reservist, that you had a multitude of reports that he was becoming more and more radicalized by Islam, that he had converted to Islam, and that some of his behavior was getting the attention of other Army reservists, and that this was reported. And why was this not followed up on? The reason why is that when it comes to the religious freedoms and what has gone on within our military, it's now hands off.
Yeah.
You can't look at somebody, it's a blinking red light. This is a problem. And yet the U.S. military has now turned into, well, we can't do much of anything about it because that person is entitled to their feelings and their emotions and their thoughts.
Oh, God,
if that doesn't piss you off, buddy, you ain't going to be pissed off today. That should piss you off worse than anything else.
That will not get a lot of attention because of what the system is messed up. The system's broken.
Well, the system there is broken, but a lot of that is from the leadership that we've had over the last 3.5 years that's coddled this kind of pro-Palestinian behavior instead of talking about the dangers of what is happening on TikTok, what's happening on Instagram, what's happening on X and every other social media platform with the indoctrination of our children or the mentally weak that these people seem to be. Both the Vegas guy, too. Throw him in there. But you know what? When you see how pro-Palestinians, and, you know, there's a story in Politico talking about how these pro-Palestinian groups are now afraid because Trump's coming in power because they've had such an easy way of dealing with the administration, a threat of not voting for Kamala Harris. That would keep her on the sideline about talking about the atrocities of what they do in Palestine or the terrorist groups do in Palestine. These kind of things that we've played games with and not being able to stand up and saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to play you or coddle you and say, hey, it's okay about your feelings or the way you think. If you're thinking in a dangerous manner, we got to put a stop to it right away.
You must. You have to. Yeah, but here's the thing, and you brought this up earlier, Lowe's. The fight that Donald Trump was about to have over mass deportations all of a sudden becomes clearly easier than it was just yesterday or the day before yesterday.
Well, the argument is going to have to be made and to make it make sense to society, because what's going to happen on the opposing side is this person's an American citizen, and they are. They are an American citizen. They were serving in the military. Hell, they were educated at Georgia State, okay? They were educated just down the street.
At least had a class there. We know that.
And before transferring over to Campbell University. That's part of the lineage of what this person was educated in. They have every right to be here.
Sure.
The problem is, what occurred? What created a scenario where this person was indoctrinated? What did you find in terms of a community that is now here that wasn't here before?
But I think that's what Rhino was talking about. Just we've allowed so many people in here to then foster this situation or foster the ability to find community, to find people of like mind. We hate America. We are radicalized in some shape, form, or fashion, whether politically or religiously, because that's the two worlds that are colliding right now. And I think this is the situation we find ourselves in is not just political and it's not just religious. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, but who's going to investigate this? Not the FBI, not anybody else. They're not actually going to do any kind of investigation to figure out where it's coming from, how it's coming from, because we've talked about this too long about making it okay. You can't go, look, the Patriot Act was a big mistake. So there's certain kind of games that we need to play, but there got to be better ways to go ahead and say, hey, enough's enough. Why did this guy become the way he did? What happened? How do we investigate this? I don't trust the FBI to do it. They can't investigate half the things that are going on already. They seem like such a mess. Look at the way the FBI agent came out yesterday and talked in front of the press, afraid to say that, this could be a terrorist attack, saying that they don't know, they don't have any information when everybody else already knew. And she stood out there and played the game that the left wants to continue to play. We have to break those barriers and say enough's enough. We have to protect the American people. How many people are here? Go investigate that. Find out where they're coming from. Find out what they're using and how they're doing it. Because they're not the only ones. You don't think China is starting to get involved in this, or they're a part of this too?
Have been. We think about the police stations we know about. Think about all the things that were happening with Chinese nationals. The ones that the FBI caught at the airport in L.A. trying to leave the country, knowing that they had committed crimes. That's the Islamic part.
They're not going to even investigate them, though.
It's just a smidge. But I don't think they can. I don't think they can't.
It's only until it's too late that they start to investigate.
No, I get
Why aren't they going? They knew about these guys. They said they knew about the videos. They knew about his talk. They knew about what he was doing. They knew about him joining a mosque. Then why didn't you investigate it earlier? Because that's not what we do. And I understand the importance of that in this country, to not just jump into assumptions, but to kind of sit back, because we've heard it too many times. We're not going to get transparency. You're not going to get a manuscript from a trans shooter. You're not going to. They're trying to keep the American people stupid and unafraid by not being transparent and allowing us as adults to say, no, don't hide information from me anymore. You say you're going to be transparent. Go ahead. We have nothing to fear. Release the manifestos. Release the truth so we can get to the bottom of it.
So Tug decides to leave the radio show. Marriage ends. Starts to have issues, and suddenly he converts to Islam. All right, we're all going to start asking the question, how did all this occur? And that's the question that you have with this person that pulled off this horrible act in New Orleans. And then you're going to wonder, what about that 37-year-old over in Las Vegas? What motivated this person to get to this point? The same way I would be saying, I never saw that coming from Tug. How does that make any sense? Tug is Captain America. Something occurred, and he found a certain community that fostered this sort of anger and this sort of hatred and this sort of his life falling apart to find a new purpose.
And think about how quickly it happened. They said he's only been in
months. That's what they were talking about, months.
Exactly right. And that, what kind of power does that sort of brainwash, that sort of influence have over people, that it can do it so quickly and go from a troubled man, for sure, but to a killer.
But this is why you had the investigation going on that spanned over into Texas within a mosque in Houston, because they're trying to track down what kind of teaching was going on that this person was subjected to and then adhered to.
Goodness. The coordinated attack on America on New Year's Day seems like it's just the beginning of something more ominous for us Americans in 2025. That discussion after the Fox News update on Xtra 106.3.
It's time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Xtra 106.3.
January 2nd, 2025, last day of Hanukkah, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. Donald Trump, to the anguish of Democrats, especially those in Congress, wants to really work on cutting government spending. Government spending is their power. They're not happy. I have a good example of outrageous government spending, not at the federal level. There's plenty of those. This is at the city of Atlanta level, and I was right in the middle of it a couple of years ago. Maybe 12? At any rate, I was invited by a congregation in Atlanta to light one of the candles for Hanukkah. I was honored, felt privileged. The ceremony was going to take place in Centennial Park, downtown Atlanta. Not a lot of good reasons to go to downtown Atlanta, but that was one for me. So I studied up a bit on Hanukkah, by no means an expert, went on down there on the designated day, met up with the congregation, had a grand time with them. Good eats, by the way. They were in a little tent in the middle of Centennial Park, in case there was some adverse weather, bad time of year. And I noticed parked next to the tent was a City of Atlanta fire truck and one ambulance. Why? So I inquired and found out that the City of Atlanta had a regulation that if anybody was going to use an open flame in an event in Centennial Park or elsewhere, they had to have fire protection, a fire truck and an ambulance. This was a candle. One candle, fire truck, ambulance. You pay city taxes. You wonder where that money goes? Oh, my God, somebody might be lighting the candle on city property somewhere. Wow. Let's set out the ambulance. Let's get the fire truck on the road. That's the way to save money. Yeah, right. Neil Bortz, Extra, 106.3.
Lee Brandt Jewelry and Watch Company, where quality and value make the difference. Locally owned and located in Sandy Springs, offering you the finest selection of unique diamonds, sapphires, rubies, and emerald jewelry, as well as other fine gemstones. Lee Brandt Jewelry and Watches has been servicing Rolex watches for over 30 years, and their Rolex-trained watchmaker will service your watch in their state-of-the-art Rolex service center in their store. Lee Brandt uses only genuine Rolex parts, and their estimates are free. Drop by Lee Brandt in the Trader Joe's Shopping Center in Sandy Springs or visit LeeBrandt.com.
It's January 2nd, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. It's National Personal Trainer Day, and for many of us, we'll be making our resolutions for the new year. The most common, exercise more or lose weight. So if you plan to hit the gym, make sure to use the hashtag Personal Trainer Awareness Day on your social media account. Also on this date, Georgia became the fourth state to ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1788. President Richard Nixon imposed a speed limit of 55 on the nation's highways in 1974. It was a response to the spike in oil prices as well as supply disruptions in 1973. The musical Annie put on its final performance in 1983 after nearly 6 years and more than 2,300 performances. If it's your birthday today, you share it with legendary science fiction writer Isaac Asimov, born in 1920, and Beverly Hills 90210 star actress Gabrielle Carteris, born in 1961. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
Paul has a message for everyone. To everybody I offended this year, work on yourself so I don't have to do it again next year.
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app. WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey Broadcasting Station. The 8 a.m. hour is brought to you by Central Heating and Air.
Help. I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News is one of the many questions the day after the New Orleans terror attack that left at least 15 people dead, dozens injured.
This act of pure evil, as President Trump said, is exactly right. A vicious attack on innocent Americans celebrating New Year's. Everyone involved in this needs to be brought swiftly to justice.
House Speaker Mike Johnson a short time ago on Fox. He's from Louisiana, closely following the probe.
Officials still believe that there are more suspects out there. Now, this time yesterday was chaos. Police say 42-year-old Samsudeen Jabbar plowed a rental truck into crowds of people on Bourbon Street at 3:15 in the morning yesterday. And investigators are trying to figure out how Jabbar, a Texas-born U.S. citizen, became radicalized. He served 13 years in the Army and Army Reserves. The FBI says there was an ISIS flag and pipe bombs in the truck he was driving.
Fox's Madison Scarpino in New Orleans. Jabbar was killed by police. President Biden called the attack despicable, offering condolences to the victims. And on that same sentiment, Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill wants a college football playoff game postponed yesterday by the terror attack, postponed again. Instead of the plan for Georgia and Notre Dame to play this afternoon, she tells Fox.
We have at least 10 more that are clinging to life in the hospital. And, you know, I think that there's a certain degree of respect that we owe to the dead and to their families and the victims.
Here's something else being investigated. Is New Orleans at all linked to what happened in Las Vegas, where a rented Tesla Cybertruck full of explosives blew up early New Year's Day right outside the Trump International Hotel?
We're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet.
Las Vegas Metro Sheriff Kevin McMahill.
We do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We're able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging station.
The driver inside the truck was killed, at least 7 other people injured. America's listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
You may know Bortz is back, but not everyone else does. Tell anyone who loves America, Bortz is back on the radio in Atlanta, and his new home is Xtra 106.3. Listen to him now on the Xtra 106.3 app.
The stories are flooding in of people that were in I can't want to say Las Vegas, but in New Orleans, down for the Georgia game. Of course, we did have a terrorist attack in Las Vegas, too, but it did not take any lives. There were injuries. But New Orleans is the one that I want to focus on. And there was a man that Myles Garrett, who does sports for Fox 5, had shared. His man's name was Lance, and he shared an Uber with one of the victims that were lost in this terrorist attack. A friend of ours whose son played baseball with my son at Alpharetta High School, that young man who was about 2 years older than my son, who was about 22 years old, he was in the bar restaurant that the truck that hit people in New Orleans happened in front of. So in the bar as this happens, and all you could think about was, holy cow, it could have been him. It's how random that these things are and how frightening these things are and how vigilant Americans need to be. I don't feel like I can stress that enough.
I've been on Bourbon Street a couple of different times.
I've never been there.
And for me, I'm always the bar dweller. Like, I find a cool bar, some live music, and I just sit in there. But the amount of thousands of people that are out on the street. Now, if there is a blessing, considering there's 15 dead, if you're earlier in the night, there's more people.
Yeah.
At 3:45, again, Bourbon Street's always going. But you're talking about thousands. Had this terrorist attack occurred, let's say, hours before game time of what was going to go on, if you had told me this attack went on at 7 o'clock before the Sugar Bowl, Bourbon Street's even crazier than it would have been at that hour.
It's unreal to even think about. It's hard to grasp it because I don't think that we comprehend the thought of actually doing something like this. I mean, because we're just regular folks. You listening right now, you're just a regular person. You've never considered doing anything like this before. So we have a hard time comprehending the evil that would infest somebody's mind to do this. Are we broken sinners? Absolutely. But that is pure evil on display. How did that evil come about? That's been a big discussion this morning. And the fact that they're looking for other terrorists that are involved in some way or other. And I guess my biggest fear is, y'all, is that when we start unraveling this becomes something so big that, that the federal government can no longer ignore it. They've half-assed it for so long. For 4 years, they've half-assed it. And they can no longer do this. The scariest part, though, Rhino, is that we still have 18 days with Joe Biden, who's MIA and have been since the election. What am I saying? He's been MIA for 4 years. Who's running the show? Who is running the show? And we don't know the answer to that question right now.
No, I think we're like in a free-for-all right now, like just waiting till Jan 20. And the problem right now is is, there are going to be questions that need to be answered. Number one, is that Cybertruck explosion in front of Trump's building, is that attached to what happened in New Orleans? These are all the kind of questions that are being asked right now. And then the secrecy behind it, because right now the Louisiana Attorney General, he's out there saying, hold on one second, we got to talk about all of this. And we need to, know what the FBI knows. We're trying to figure it out. Here's what they're withholding from us. So you're starting to see it just kind of all unravel, and now's not the time without any kind of leadership in this country. But think about Jan 20. Think about what's happening that day, where it's happening. How is this all going to lead up to it? We need answers, because that could be a very dangerous day as well. Not to mention everywhere else in this country should be on high alert.
Well, you want answers. I want answers. Joe Virgin River wants answers. The problem is, when those answers end up being ugly, can you handle it? For instance, there have been discussions, there have been reports about, these are both former military individuals who did serve. The question becomes, what exactly occurred in our military, if it did occur in our military, that turned these people that were regular red-blooded Americans who wanted to serve this country into, how much mayhem can I cause with terrorist acts on this country? Where did this originate from? Because if you have two people that served in a similar capacity at similar installations, what were they taught? What is going on?
And how many more?
And do you want to get to the bottom of that?
And the answer is yes, you have to. It doesn't matter if you want to or not, Los. You have to.
So much of this stuff, and DEI always has this connotation. Like, DEI, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. And I look at it and I go, to me, it turns your brain into spaghetti, because you have to jump through all these hoops and all these rules. And I think when it comes to the stress of military service, when you start clogging it up with BS, you start getting BS times 1,000 coming back at you.
And you see that in our Pentagon specifically, that BS that you're talking about, when we have ships that can't get underway, aircraft that can't take off, and soldiers that can't deploy, because their focus has not been in the right place. And clearly, their focus hasn't been on what's happening inside of our military that could cause two people to do what they did. Is it the military's fault? No. But could the military have prevented it?
On the same day.
On the same day, yes.
Look, and I'm not going to relate the two or relate the military as obviously the problem, but when you start just kind of
focus is in the wrong place. That's the whole point for me.
Yeah, but when you're relaxing the way that you're allowing people to come in with mental illness, because that's what's happening.
Yes.
Men who think they're women and need to have their help done in the military, sorry, that's a mental illness, and you're allowing that into the military. We need strong-minded people in the military. So what are they getting from that except for the acceptance of being mentally insane at that point? So maybe that does break down to where these two people who, even if they're connected, not connected, but there's a commonality in between the two, that this is a military thing. Our entire country is breaking down. The United States is turning into what we watch overseas, whether we like it or not. What's happening in the UK, Germany, with their Christmas parade, the Islamophobia that's happening all over the world because people are coming in and doing these kind of things, whether it's a knife attack, a car attack, a truck running through things. It has to stop. But right now, we have no leadership in this country that's going to put a stop to it.
Do you want ugly truth? Because that's what
we have to have.
That's where I'm getting to.
We have to have it.
Because I ask you this: why do you have, and this is just in general, but why do you think we send 18 to 22-year-olds to go fight our wars? You ever pondered
because
this?
They're manipulated easily.
They're mentally pliable.
Yep.
They're teachable, and then they're going to follow orders. This has been the history of warfare. This is what we do. My question now becomes, how do you have 30-year-olds that are military members and former military members? We want to say it's mentally instability, they're mentally insane. What if they're not? What if they're just indoctrinated into their version of what's supposed to go on in this world is America is the enemy, and they've seen it up close because they served our military. They now recognize who the enemy is. When I say at times we're the bad guys, maybe these two people looked at it and said, America's the bad guy, and what I should do as a patriot or whatever their version is, this is how I strike back at it. One of these guys looked at it in Vegas as the right thing to do is to try and blow up a hotel with a Trump name on it using an Elon Musk truck.
Right. That's the political angle.
Yeah.
Right. And there's going to be more of that. There's going to be more evidence of that.
How did they become mentally pliable to get to this point?
I believe the military taking its eye off the ball the way that it has and focusing on all the wrong things at least open the door for it all to happen. Like I said, I don't fault the military for teaching the indoctrination part. Sure. But I do blame them for leaving the door open for that to form, fester, and be distributed.
I asked this question as well. And again, ugly questions to ask. I admit it. It's what it is. When you have, in our work with veteran organizations, we recognize how many veterans that come back broken.
Yeah.
How many veterans that come back with issues that are suicidal, that have problems.
Well, dude, 22 suicides a day for military members.
That's been the number that has been out there for a number of years.
It's actually more than that. Believe it or not, it's 41 per day, including those that are still enlisted.
But we have broken a generation of men. So is it any surprise that when you have this broken generation of men who have served in our military that then are carrying out some of these acts? Now, again, you had the government that was like white, Christian, former veterans. Sure. And then their entire point was these people are the problem. There's an issue that's systemic that is going on with what we're doing to our military servicemen and women.
Well, yeah, if you know a lot of veterans, and Tug obviously a veteran, and if you talk to a lot of them and they've put on their lives on the line, then they come home and we don't take care of them, how are you supposed to feel about that? How are you supposed to feel as a veteran when, people are like, yeah, we're not going to fund this, we're not going to do that, we're not going to take care of your health care at the VA, you're going to get cut off for this. I know we medically discharged you, but you're not going to get 100% medical discharge when you come to the VA. We're going to run you through the ringer. And then when you get to the point where you're on the lowest, the lowest of your life and you're struggling and, maybe you lost your life because your wife or your family or something else. Maybe you lost your job because of everything that you're dealing with from the PTSD of being a military member. Think about how really hard that would be for anybody to deal with. But then throw in the radicalization or having somebody come from the outside saying, why did you let America do this to you? You should get back at them. Yep. Why did you allow these people to do this to you? Look at you. You're broken. You're hurt. They don't care about you. You're sleeping on the street. You're hurting.
So I was listening to the Sean Ryan podcast and I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. So he had Chris Paranto that was on, and he's one of the private soldiers that was working in Benghazi when all of that mayhem happened.
Movie 13 hours.
You can watch 13 hours, and he is very complimentary of the guys that served there. They worked with the writers of the movie, and they're like, there's so much that they got right based on what we told them that had gone on. And what's really striking about when you hear kind of his testimony when he's talking to Sean Ryan, so he talked about when they got back home, and they recognized that Susan Rice was telling people, well, this occurred because of a video on YouTube. And they're like, no, it didn't.
No,
and they saw the politics of all of it. Man, they turned against their own. They looked at politicians as the scumbags of the earth.
As they should.
Love their country, but it doesn't take a big jump to go, how did you turn against your country because of what they experienced? And so that was that moment when I thought about yesterday. And then hearing a guy who went through the mayhem that he went through, and it's very easy to go, these people don't have my back. This country doesn't have my back.
And I think a lot of that comes down to truth, right? So Chris, Tonto Paranto, and the other men that faced the Benghazi thing and Hillary Clinton talking about, they had truth on their side. And it
didn't matter, though.
No, I know. But no, I'm saying, but from their point of view, they had truth on their side because they had lived through it. And the people that are being indoctrinated now, the two that carried out these attacks, they don't have truth on their side. But it's easier to manipulate lies than it is even the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's just there's this moment where you have to have turned against your own what you've committed your life to a certain extent. You think about your 4 years in the Navy, and Tug, you've talked about how if you could have careered, you would have careered. You met your wife and you decided it's time for me to get out. I'm going to have a different portion of my life, but you would have careered.
Yes, I would.
Imagine how these guys spent years in our military. And then they turned against their own country.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's not hard to see why, though. When you sit here and you look, Huh?
It is too.
Yeah,
Hard to see why.
It is hard to see why.
That's why it's an ugly question.
It is an ugly question, but you know what? If I was a veteran and I came back and I wasn't getting help for things that I dealt with, and maybe I was in Afghanistan like this gentleman, maybe I was in Iraq, maybe it could have been anywhere in the Middle East, and I sat and I did things that maybe I, like just as a human, I struggled with. Then I come home and I go, hey, listen, I need help. And they go, listen, we just don't cover that right now. Well, I need help. I can't help you find this. Here's a group, go talk to them. Here's a group, go talk to them. No, I need actual help. And then you find out that the United States government, the people that you trust, the leaders that we elect say, well, we're not going to help you. We're not going to give you money. You're a homeless veteran, or you're sick, or we're not going to help you with the VA. We're going to fight over these. We're not going to put it in separate bills, but we are going to send all this money to Israel for weapons. We're going to send all this money to Ukraine. We're going to take that Pentagon spending. Instead of spending it on you, we're going to spend it on weapons and mass destruction in these areas. I can understand why some of these people will feel really hurt and left out and alone.
Most people don't ask for help to begin with.
True.
Most people leaving the military do not ask for help. The overwhelming majority don't ask for help.
Why?
So it's just inherent.
It's not in the mentality.
That's not their mentality.
Where's it taught?
It's not taught anywhere. It's just the fact that you're the strong one. You're in the military. You never ask for help. You don't need help. You are the help.
Because you were taught that.
Right, you're exactly right.
Why aren't we teaching, hey, you do need help. When you get out, you should have
the military
this.
is, at least veterans, look, the Warrior Alliance is on the cutting edge of this and telling people you must ask for help. And that's their point of view, that warriors don't ask for help because they are the help.
Right.
They are the people that rush in. So,
but the Warrior Alliance is private, right? That's not our government stepping in and saying, hey,
right,
here's your taxpayer money that we fund you with. We should be offering the help. Instead, we got to go find great people like the Warrior Alliance.
I would trust
the government involved.
Yeah, I would trust a private organization first to begin with.
Can't run a post office. You want to take care of warriors?
But then don't tell me that we need money for their help then. Stop saying that you need to take my taxpayer money for that when I can go to the Warrior Alliance or a private industry and give them the money because I care. But stop taking my taxpayer money and saying you're doing something with it and then sending weapons to Israel. But you're sending weapons to Ukraine.
You're having a systemic issue of young men and women that are not asking for help because they've been conditioned to not ask for help.
That's right. Yeah.
This is the issue. And then if you're trying to tell me, well, the government needs to be involved in help, I'm going to tell you you're going to have a lot more screwed up people because the VA is a total mess in that regard.
VA would cause it. Yeah,
but it's very hard. And we've now seen this. And I think probably people roll their eyes when they see this on Sunday. I know every now and then I look at it and I'm like, okay, I see where my tax dollars are going. But if you ever pay attention to NFL football, they now have all of these ads that are telling men, and it's not geared at servicemen, but it pretty much is geared there of mental health is important. Take care of your mental as much as you focus on your body and as much as you've become this person, this indestructible force by which that you're portraying American power all around the world. Man, when you get home, you got to take care of your own head.
That's exactly right. And that's the message of the Warrior Line. So it's fascinating to see all of this come together on the second day of January.
Mm-hmm.
Think about where we are. We started 2025. And here we are having this debate already.
Can I give you the one bright spot?
Yeah,
if there is a bright spot with what
absolutely.
happened in Las Vegas?
Yes.
If you ever wanted to, I don't know, have a terrorist attack that didn't work out, and then you basically creted an ad for Elon Musk and his Cybertruck, that's what you did.
That's exactly right. Terrorists are not the smartest people in the world.
So you died in it. It blew up. Granted, nobody else died. Blessing. And then you created an ad for it. This is how tough the Cybertruck is, that it actually couldn't explode out. Your bombs exploded straight up and it kept more people from getting killed.
Everybody lose their mind on that one, though, huh? I'd love to see it, though.
The man on the left hates Elon. That's even more. He just created an ad for Elon in his truck.
Right.
Which is an ugly truck. I wouldn't want one,
like
but kind of cool.
It looks like a refrigerator on wheels, what it looks like to me. My son loves it, though. Kids love it. Dude,
it's so ugly.
I think it's hideous, too. But anyway, the actions we've seen abroad for decades have now made it to our shores. We'll continue the conversation. 404-741-1230 is the number if you'd like to get involved in the discussion. Gary on the phone from Woodstock. We'll get him after the break and after headlines here on Extra 106.3.
Stream Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, Glenn Beck, Fox News, and even NASCAR on Sundays. Anywhere on the Extra 106.3 app. Download the app now and get 24/7 access to the live stream, the latest news, and everything you need to know about Atlanta's only conservative talk station. Download the Extra 106.3 app for Apple or Android and check out even more great original content at thepodcastpark.com.
You may know that ATL Turf Co. has become a leader in artificial grass design and installation services, but you may not know that ATL Turf Co. is a large artificial grass distributor. We only sell U.S.-made, premium name brand turf at factory direct pricing below wholesale. And now we're open to the public with large inventories of lawn and landscape, putting green, athletic, and pet turf on sale. Plus, all remnants are on sale for only $1 per square foot, direct from Dalton to our warehouse in Kennesaw. Visit atlturfco.com to learn more. atlturfco.com.
Atlanta Braves single game tickets for the 2025 season are now on sale. Get your tickets for some exciting matchups next season, like when the Phillies come to Truist Park during the opening homestand in April, followed by the Dodgers and Padres in May, the New York Yankees in July, and many more.
0-2 driven well to deep left field. That's moving fast. 2-run home run, Sean Murphy. And it's 2-0 Braves here in the fourth.
And fans can also look forward to some favorite specialty ticket packages next season, including the brand new Hello Kitty ticket package in April, where fans will receive a Hello Kitty figure with a light-up bow. The Star Wars package that includes a Braves Astromech figure, and the Military Appreciation package, which includes an Army Green t-shirt. Plus, you can go ahead and reserve your spot to play catch on the field for Father's Day, but hurry, it sells out fast. Don't miss out on a home schedule packed with star power. Visit Braves.com/packages to learn more and purchase today. Atlanta Braves Baseball. We are Braves country.
Securing America.
250 mayors, police chiefs, and governors now on notice. They face federal prosecution if they interfere with President Trump's mass deportation plan. A letter from America First Legal, which has strong ties to Trump policymakers, say it is a crime for local officials to conceal or shield migrants from federal agents. The letter targets leaders in so-called sanctuary jurisdictions. In recent weeks, many have said they'll refuse to cooperate with federal efforts to ramp up deportation of criminal migrants. That's not going over well with incoming border czar Tom Homan.
If you don't want to protect your communities, shame on you. But we're going to do it for you. You're not going to stop me. We're coming.
Federal law says if you're here illegally, you're deportable, crime or not. Congress, through the 1986 Immigration Control Act, requires criminal aliens to be deported, quote, as soon as possible after their conviction. William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your top stories in the state of Georgia for today, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. The University of Georgia has confirmed that a 19-year-old student was critically injured in the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on Wednesday morning. The student, identified as El Izel, remains in critical condition in the hospital. The attack by 42-year-old Shamuddin Jabbar claimed 15 lives and left 35 people injured. The suspect was killed by police following a gunfight. The city of Atlanta played host to the most exciting college football quarterfinal game yesterday afternoon in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 5 Texas overcame 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter to beat number 4 Arizona State 39-31 in 2 overtimes. The Longhorns will move on to take on number 8 Ohio State, who routed number 1 Oregon 41-21 in last night's Rose Bowl game. And the Georgia Bulldogs will take the field this afternoon against number 7 ranked Notre Dame after the Sugar Bowl was delayed from the New Orleans terrorist attack early Wednesday morning. The winner of this afternoon's game will move on to the Orange Bowl to take on Penn State in Miami. Kickoff from New Orleans scheduled for 4 p.m. With your headlines, Scott Rhino, Extra 106.3.
8 o'clock hours brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier experts. 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is the website. We continue the conversation about the terrorist attacks that have happened in sync, pretty much in what seems like a coordinated effort to do a lot of things in a lot of different cities. And we didn't get a chance to play it in the last segment, but we had a CIA officer, former CIA officer, talk about this.
Yeah, this was Sarah Adams, and she was a target officer, and what her job was to do was to assess threats and then to give recommendations. That was part of what she was doing, and she was making the rounds, probably, I don't know, like 3 months ago, and telling people to gear up for what's coming. And she linked it all to the open border and was saying how these terrorists, when we're talking about 10 or 15 million people, if we're just saying 0.5% are radicalized, then you have enemies on your turf. All right, take a listen. This is Sarah Adams, and this is where she's talking about Americans are not ready for these styles of attacks that are coming their way. Take a listen.
We have not had a man walk up to a building with a suicide vest on the United States. Americans don't understand this. Al-Qaeda knows this, right? So this is new and innovative, especially now. You don't have to walk upside of the building. You can walk in the building because of the advancement of the vest. The other thing is, in the United States, we haven't had Fideian attackers. So the concept is the terrorist fights to the death. So he's not exactly a suicide bomber, but he will fight till either all of us are dead or all of his people are dead. We think it's going to be a swarming attack, right? Multiple different attacks at one time across multiple cities. I think there will be suicide bombers just because some of the attackers went through suicide bomber training and they have these vests. And then we think there's these Fideian attackers who will carry on until they're killed.
You just rephrase that. So these guys are trained and they are going to fight until they're killed.
Yes, and that matters, right? So I was watching this video and it was a suicide bombing in Kabul years ago. The bomber blew up and then everyone starts moving in. The first responders move in, right? And then another guy walks in and blows up. We know this is a tactic, but if Americans don't understand this as a tactic and don't understand these attackers are going to fight to the death, think about that. Battle's going on. The attacker surrenders. He might have the suicide vest. You know, we let our guard down. That man came to die, right? He's going to fight till he dies or you die. So we can't let our guards down, and they know our weakness. So we have to be very careful that we don't have more people die in these second and third order effects of not knowing their intent.
What did we have going on in the French Quarter? Explosive devices that were put in there. So there was the initial truck attack, followed by these are going to be the follow-up explosions to take out first responders. Everything she just told you months ago, that was the MO of the attack.
She also talked about it being coordinated in multiple cities in 2025, that would be the plan in the new year. You started with that, Rhino, on day one.
Yeah, you started day one. But again, this has been coordinated for how long? They've known about these kind of attacks or the possibility of these attacks for probably 2-3 years when they told us these cells are coming through, when we had the red lights. Now's the time to go ahead and start really investigating to figure out who else has been talked to. How else did they find out? And I know they'll keep a lot of that quiet because they don't want to blow any leads they may have on others that are involved in this, but we should be scared. We should be scared about every special event, including every football game, every inauguration, every event where some leader, whether they're Democrat or Republican, because the reality of this, Democrats need to be behind this as much as Republicans, because don't forget what pro-Palestinian groups did. They turned on Biden and Harris. That's why they lost a lot of those places. They pulled back because they didn't think they were getting enough Palestinian support. So everybody should be scared of what's going on and where these people are.
What's concerning is that our former operators who are now hosting podcasts and doing shows,
and there's a lot of them
who got experience overseas, they're recognizing the tactics.
Yeah.
They're the ones who keep telling us this is how this plays out overseas. We've seen this a lot through Europe, where if you have trouble getting your hands on weapons, then you use a truck. You use a larger truck, a U-Haul, whatever it is, and you drive through crowds. They talk about these secondary explosions, that these are things you use to then take out first responders to create more carnage. So everything that they've been bringing up in the last several months as possibilities of now showing up here, attacks on malls, attacks on sporting events, you got that on day one of 2025.
Day one. Day one. Be vigilant.
And again,
stay vigilant.
So much of terrorism is about creating instability within your society, but causing economic instability. That's their primary weapon, so we can't fund things overseas.
Also, fear, right? Because
very much so.
If you're scared, you don't react. You lock down. You cower. That's something you cannot be, is scared. And that's not what we're trying to build here, in the fear of being scared to take care of yourself, take care of your family. I think our message is be vigilant. Make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you don't go about life as usual, because life isn't as usual anymore.
Do you realize how far away we are from if you see something, say something?
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up with that in New York, Rhino. That was part of the culture there.
Yeah, and it's starting to come back now. I mean, I heard it a lot, especially after the New York attack. But, I've heard it a lot lately. If you see something, say something. They started talking about it in New Orleans. I know that a lot of people are very sensitive in, insulting somebody, but you got to look and say, hey, I don't know, this just doesn't look right. It might be perfectly fine, but maybe we should look because somebody might get hurt. So I don't think there's a problem with it. If you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. Don't allow this to continue to happen. Don't feel bad because someone's going to label you as a certain way if you say something.
But that's the broken nature.
Yeah.
That's the old way
of our system.
Yeah.
If these reports are correct, that when it came to this New Orleans driver and what he did, and that he was reported a multitude of times through the U.S. Army Reserve that he's been radicalized and his behavior has gotten very strange.
Right.
We had the reports that as a divorcee, a two-time divorcee, that he wasn't allowed to see his kids because his behavior would have gotten more and more erratic. If you went to authorities and you pointed this out, the only reason that I can imagine they didn't go back over to him to investigate this is, well, listen, he's got an Islamic name.
We can't.
And we just can't go after
those
this
days
sort of
are
thing.
over.
But that's the nature of how our system's broken.
I know it is, but those days are over. I believe they're over. And this is just another example of how they're over. We can't operate at business as usual. We can't worry about the labeling system. You can't worry about what people are going to think or say. You have to call it like it is. And I think the election of Donald Trump was the reason now that people are feeling more. Remember when we were joking, what was it, week before Christmas, we were joking about the words you can say again?
Yeah.
But that was a fun, lighthearted version of what's happening right now. You have to put all that other nonsense aside and say what is happening, call it for what.
Well, we got to strip away the BS.
That's the simple way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are going to get offended no matter what. Everybody can find something to offensive to get offended by. Yeah, let them get over that, because the reality is life is on the line here, and we've seen it too much. And if you want to, go to the border, you can go to the border and see how many lives have been ruined because our border's been open, and they continue, whether or not you want to relate it to fentanyl or otherwise. We need to stop this game because we've become so partisan. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I don't care what you are. I want you to be safe every day you walk the streets in this country. I want you to feel safe. I want you to honor the police that are out there every single day trying to make sure that our streets are safe. I want to make sure that we're honoring our military members and making sure they're okay. But these terrorist cells are here. So, you know what? Sometimes we got to just kind of put all the, garbage aside and say, hey, we're going to stop this. This guy doesn't look right. Make sure you make a phone call, get it done.
The other thing is he was making donations to Democrats through the website ActBlue. Mm-hmm. And this is going to get looked over. This is going to get downplayed.
You mean like everybody else so far?
Yes. And there's something to that. The reason is it's the way the Democrat Party thinks and the way people who support the Democrat Party thinks. Is it everybody? Of course not. But you have to consider the political angle of this story. This is not just a story of terrorism, but also political terrorism.
Well, I bring this up because the left will constantly try and say that the far right, he's like, no, they're Nazis. Their biggest complaint is that they have this far crazy love of their own country. All right, if the equal and opposite reaction on the left is they have
we're gonna hate it that much more.
Despise the country. Mm-hmm. Well, then when you are, as a political organization, really filling into that because it has voter turnout, it creates people to get angry, they get in the street. You were nurturing it. So when you tell me that this man donated, and it's only $20,
sure,
but two different donations, and here's what he made. Is it because he was buying more into the idea of like, hey, you hate the country too?
These are my people.
Right.
Here's my money.
These are my people. And this was a man that was in tremendous amounts of debt.
Yes, life was falling apart reportedly.
He did not have $20 to his name. So to be able to donate $20 when you don't got $20, that's a commitment that I'm not making $20 donations to Donald Trump campaign.
No.
I never have.
I didn't make a dollar donation to him.
But that's the point, though. When you're in dire straits financially, but you see fit that I'm going to use the little bit of money that I have to further the cause, dude, that should be alarming to everybody.
Well, what's gross of what happens overseas And it's the higher end of like Hamas and Hezbollah. These people are multi-millionaires. They're comfortable. They're living in Dubai. They're living in these places where they have all this money and they're funding terrorism. And what does that mean? Take your $5,000, go blow yourself up, go attack a marketplace, die for the cause. And that's what they're doing. They use their money in this way. They're taking advantage of very poor people that have a very limited amount of education. The weird part for me is I get that you were in dire straits, but you're an educated person.
Yes.
How did you then go down this road?
Yeah, that's what we need to get to the bottom of, right?
Dumb and dire straits is one thing.
Sure.
Rhino, you and I could not have a penny to our name, and we would still go, yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, this is horrible. I would never go through with that. This is stupid. I don't want your money. I don't want a part of that. And then I'd probably turn that person in. But there is a breaking point somewhere. And, I don't know how I could get into the mind of someone like that and think that way. The only thing I could think of is he felt failed by everybody and everything. And it is a very lonely place, depression. I'll also I'd love to know the medicines that some of these people are on. I really would. The big pharma companies, because when I sit here and I watch a football game and I watch on streaming, all I get throughout the entire commercial breaks are all of these big pharma commercials for everything that you're dealing with, whether it's depression, anxiety, skin pigmentation problems, but every side effect goes to suicidal thoughts, dangerous thoughts, those kind of things. So there's probably so much that goes into making somebody who, like Carlos said, is smart to get to that point where they're willing to do what they do.
Trump's transition team can't get in place soon enough. This is something that I think is going to be so important. The confirmation of Kash Patel, because I struggle with having belief in the FBI. And they've given me no reason to believe. But I do believe that Kash Patel can create change in that agency, just like I believe Pete Hegseth can create change in the Pentagon. Those things need to happen. We need this transition team in place as soon as possible. And they've got to be focused, Rhino, on the things that are in front of us and that you cannot overlook, because on day one of 2025, all of this happened.
Donald Trump and the campaign made a really smart decision by saying, hey, guys, stay off social media for a while. Wait until you're confirmed. Focus on the job at hand. And I think it's so important that these people do. Don't give the left or any of these people who want to make something out of nothing an opportunity to do so. Get in there. Stay focused on what you want to do. With your Pete Hegseth, if you're, Kash Patel should be talking about, hey, here's why we need FBI leadership instead of what we have. We don't need someone going out there in front of the press like they did yesterday saying, well, we're not going to call this a terrorist attack, even though he had an ISIS flag in the back of his car or on his car. We need strength. So don't go out there. Don't get on social media. Just be strong.
Can I bring up a alternative theory there?
Yeah.
Because I thought about that last night, because I was bothered by that you had the first FBI official hours after this attack. And she gets up in front of everyone. She says, well, this is not being looked at as a terrorist attack. Then we're all like, wait a minute. What about that
the ISIS flag?
Like, that might give it away.
Might catch you. Yeah.
All right. I think that, and again, we'll see how this plays out. But in my mind, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, I went, yeah, I'd probably do the same thing. And the reason why is I got thousands of people in New Orleans, and they're all in town for this event. And if I tell them a terrorist attack just occurred outside their doorstep, how much of a freak out does that create in that town?
Yes.
And so we all knew it to be a terrorist, but we all knew that from the comfort of Atlanta.
And right. And I think that's why the Senator John Kennedy statement was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he said, are you safe? Are we safe? Is this all coordinated? And he was like, I don't know. I do know. I can't say. Then Aisha Hosni from Fox News Channel, who was interviewing it at the time, I saw it on Twitter, now called X, and she asked, is New Orleans safe? And he said, yes, we have to button up security. But yes, which goes right into what you're talking about.
That's what I was thinking. And I'm not into, I can't stand the FBI. Yeah. I call them the checkup. Sure. Yeah. I thought to myself, if I was in that town, if I had been there, or my wife and I and my kids, and you had the FBI get up in front of people and say, we just had a terrorist attack, here's what's going on. Yeah, we're scrambling to the airport. We're stampeding out of that hotel. Yep. So I give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt there.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan, and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
The college football playoff semifinals are almost set. 6-seed Penn State beat 3-seed Boise State 31-14 on New Year's Eve. Here in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl, Texas defeated Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. They'll take on 8-seed Ohio State, who trounced the 1-seed Oregon 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. 2-seed UGA takes on 7-seed Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl today at 4. Catch it on our sister station, 680 The Fan, after staying tuned here on Extra 106.3.
Tug, Rhino, and Lowe's on the Morning Extra. Download the app so you can listen live and on demand. We've had some interesting, in-depth conversations about day one of 2025. How America is different, day one, 2025. When we come back, what's Joe Biden's legacy? I'll give it to you in one word. Next on the Morning Extra, Tug, Rhino, and Lowe's until 10.
The legend Neil Bortz is only on Extra 106.3. Hey, it's Pete, and here's what you missed from the Talkmaster.
Focus on the other crimes of Joe Biden. Flying illegals across the border to various cities in the United States and dumping them on the American taxpayers. That's something to get worked up about. He's a liar. Okay, he's also gone in about 6 weeks.
Catch Neil's commentary every day on Extra 106.3 or listen anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
When you got out of the shower this morning, how chilly was it in your house? Look, I bet your house is comfortable because you've got, central heating and air conditioning. You have HVAC to keep the house warm, but there's just something about getting out of the shower in the winter. Even if your house is comfortable, it is miserable. There's nothing worse. Can you imagine how much worse it would be if you didn't have central heating and air conditioning taking care of your home, or your HVAC wasn't living up to what you need it to? You see, we've gone through the season of giving, which was Christmas. Now we're on the other side of that into the new year. Now, this is going to be the season of savings. Central Heating and Air Conditioning, they are giving you $2,000 in rebates on qualifying Carrier systems. They are your Atlanta Carrier experts. Don't settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary comfort with Central Heating and Air Conditioning. Family-run business, been around since 1947. And they can do whatever you need to make your house just as comfortable as you want it to be. It can be as warm in the winter, as cool in the summer as you plan for. So don't wait. Turn to your Atlanta Carrier experts today. $2,000 back in your pocket. Starting the new year with saving some money and getting the house right where it needs to be so everybody is comfortable and toasty, especially with this cold weather coming in. It's 28 degrees outside, y'all. Good Lord. 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is the website.
No one plans on going to jail, but when it happens, it's important that you know who to call. At A Second Chance Bail Bonds, we believe everyone deserves a second chance. We handle bonds from local to federal for any jail in any city. And in most cases, we can have you or your loved one out of jail in a matter of hours. A Second Chance. It's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. Call A Second Chance 24/7 at 404-BAIL-OUT. That's 404-BAIL-OUT. Or online at atlbail.com.
Fox on Tech. It's a Happy New Year unless you're a kid in Florida on social media. A new Florida law comes on the books prohibiting kids younger than 14 from holding their own social media accounts. Kids ages 14 or 15 will need to have their parents officially give permission for a social media platform to allow that child to have an account. However, the law won't be enforced just yet. A tech industry consortium is suing the state of Florida on First Amendment grounds and is wanting a temporary injunction. And while the judge has not yet ruled on that, the Florida Attorney General is agreeing to hold off any acts against social media companies hosting kids' accounts. The same law, however, requires on-the-record age verification for users of adult websites. That, too, is now the subject of a lawsuit. But one major adult website is already blocking anyone with an IP address in Florida. With Fox on Tech, I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
The Morning Extra has you covered until 10 a.m. Then it's Glenn Beck, Clay Travis, and Buck Sexton at noon, and The Kimmer Show taking over at 3, only on Extra 106.3.
I keep hearing Biden's legacy. He's preserving his legacy. He's sending $5 billion more to Ukraine. He's preserving his legacy. He's making it harder for Trump by selling off the border wall pieces, which we know have come to a stop. But it's all in preserving Joe Biden's legacy. I hear it over and over and over again. What is Joe Biden's legacy? I can't say the word on the air. They would take me off the air today and not let me come back because I would get us in so much trouble if I tell you what his legacy is. But your dog does it when you take him on a walk. That's what Joe Biden's legacy is. The strongest version of poo-poo is Joe Biden's legacy.
Yes, sir.
And let me tell you, it's going to continue for the next 18 days. These rules, these regulations, this red tape that he wants to introduce, so it's harder for Donald Trump to make America great again. His legacy, Los, corruption, defacing America, saying it's a bad place. Open borders, which we saw the results of that on New Year's Day. Ignorant regulations, which he's going to continue, having done it for the last 4 years. The regulation for this year alone, the pages of regulation for Joe Biden, 107,262 pages with 3,248 rules and regulations, red tape.
If I may, I think I'm going to look back at this last 4 years, and I know Joe Biden is, as Barack Obama's brought it up, Joe Biden can F up anything, okay? Like, that's what it was. Largely, this was Barack Obama's third term and the third attempt to destroy this country. But the larger, bigger picture I will see is that for 4 years, we haven't had a president. We had a media that tried to cover it up. We had 4 years of somebody who was not in charge. The bureaucracy was in charge. And the media told you for the better part of 3.5 years, until he stood on a debate stage this summer, that he was totally fine, sharp as a tack, and completely with it, even though they knew that he was wandering around, allegedly, naked at the White House at night because he has dementia.
Me and Rhino talked about this story. Veteran CBS reporter Jan Crawford, she said it on Face the Nation a Sunday ago. Well, not yesterday, a week from yesterday. That was the most underreported story of the year, the one that Lowe's is talking about, the dementia that Joe Biden's had. And I wondered where she was in 2021. Where was she in 2022, 23? And now that Joe Biden is ushered out of office and it's okay to talk about, she's willing to talk about it. That's not brave. There's nothing to give her applause for. I should scold you, asking you where you were. Where was your organization, CBS News, for the last 4 years?
You know who's brave? One other woman from CBS, and that's Catherine Herridge, who came out and told you the truth and used whistleblowers when it came to the border and those kind of things. That's actually, that going against what everybody else is doing. Everybody knew. There's one person that goes, you know what? I truly believe Joe Biden is at his best, or Joe Biden, and they hid so much with the Russia collusion, with everything, the Steele dossier, the fake Hunter Biden. They've done all this. They've lied to the American people for long enough. But Joe Biden is part of that reason why we are where we are today. He is not a good person. His legacy should go down as poo-poo because all he's done is hurt this country. Again, we're watching as Janet Yellen sending more money to Ukraine. We continue to send money out with no accountability whatsoever. We allowed them, which is one of the biggest fights, which we should be talking about a lot, is when it comes to funding this government and the debt ceiling. They did this for 2 years to allow as much spending as they could in order to get to a point where they crash this economy. Joe Biden is going to destroy this and then try to walk off as, well, I gave him a perfectly great economy with 15 million jobs and this, that, the other. And yet, in the background, they've been doing this on purpose.
So we're talking about, 46 of these people? We've had 46 American presidents. All right, so when you lose one, it's pretty important. As much as you can go at Jimmy Carter, there's a lot of stuff to go at Jimmy Carter about, but there's a reason why we have our flags at half-staff. There's only been 46 of these guys. We are going to lose Joe Biden, I believe, in the next 24 months. That's going to happen because of how ill he is.
Or even closer.
And to think that for 4 years, you had a guy that was, according to reports, they were having to figure out the drug cocktail to make him look functional.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how insane that. Think about how we on the show, we would go through and say, here's what his schedule is, that intentionally made sure that he was only active from 10 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because anything before or after, he was not going to be able to be cognizant.
And look at the makeup they put on during the debate. They made him look oranger. They tried to give him life. They were hiding his eyes with glasses so you wouldn't see how dead he was inside.
That is the legacy of this, is how much your media and your government, a particular party, lied to you about the health of a man who was not able to function as the American president.
They changed the stairs on Air Force One for this president because he couldn't walk up and down, then told you he's better than ever.
They gave him different shoes, and then they made it a point to have his group, his people, walk around him so that you couldn't see his awkward shuffling, because because I remember reading this through a number of different doctors, they could have diagnosed him as having dementia or some sort of illness. If he was in a mall walking, they would know.
He wasn't able to read the prepared message to the American people after the terrorist attacks on New Year's Day. He wasn't able to get through it. He couldn't. That's the legacy. 404-741-1230. Timmons in Roswell. What's up, man?
Hey, just wanted to point out that Obama, back when he was president, Biden was his vice president, he knew it already. He said never underestimate his ability to, I'll use the word, F
it up. You're right, Tim.
Exactly right.
I brought that up to start the discussion. I'm glad you remembered it as well. Barack Obama knew what was going on. This was a puppet figure.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to look back at this and say, as much as Joe Biden was a terrible president, he was a puppet of people that we did not elect.
And it was so successful to get this puppet into place. They tried to do it again with another puppet in the vice president and try to push her through on the American people, and it just gets worse. This is a man who fell asleep, by the way. Don't forget, he fell asleep with world leaders. Forgot their names.
More than once.
Yeah, this is not. He forgot he was in Ireland a week after he was in Ireland.
And when we would comment on this and say that this man was broken, we were told,
you're awful.
That y'all are the bad guys.
You're the mean ones for pointing it out.
Joe is totally fine.
You know, it's funny. We had this discussion last night before we watched the movie that Los recommended called Molly's Game, and you should watch it too. Wow, so good. But my son says to me, he was like, I feel bad for Joe Biden. And I was like, on the human level, I understand where you're coming from. Because my son is a very faithful young man. I understand where you're coming from, but let me be clear when I tell you that this man was corrupt well before he had dementia. For 50 years, he's been doing the same things in Washington, D.C. You can give him sympathy as a human for the debilitating disease he has. But don't be mistaken about what his legacy is.
Yeah.
Which is what brought this whole topic to mind.
His political career was largely going to be over by the time you hit 2014 and they're into their last couple of years. He saw the writing on the wall. I will not be serving anywhere in elected office beyond going to be vice president. 2016 reinforced that. Why do you think that you gave Hunter Biden a pardon dating back to 2014? That's when everything ramped up for the Biden family as far as using the office to make money. They were doing this for a decade before it ever came to light. We recognize Teapot Dome scandal, which used to be the biggest thing that an executive branch ever did, is nothing compared to what the Bidens were up to, allegedly.
Yeah, this guy has never been a good or human. Like, look, I don't know most of his interior life with his family and all that. What I've seen from the outside, it doesn't look good. And when your daughter writes things about you in your diary, this man is getting what he deserves because he's not a good person, never has been a good person. I understand nobody wants to see an old man suffer like this, but hey, they did this to him. He allowed it, and his wife allowed it too. They deserve what they get.
8 o'clock hours brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier experts. 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is their website. Work with them to keep your house toasty warm this winter. Chuck and his team will hook you up. Georgia football, that's going to keep our minds occupied this afternoon, this evening, if you will. But we have to be vigilant from January 1st moving forward. That discussion after a Neil Bortz report and a Fox News update that you can only get here on Extra 106.3. Conversation that you won't find anywhere else. This is the Morning Extra.
time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
January 2nd, 2025, last day of Hanukkah, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. Donald Trump, to the anguish of Democrats, especially those in Congress, wants to really work on cutting government spending. Government spending is their power. They're not happy. I have a good example of outrageous government spending, not at the federal level. There's plenty of those. This is at the city of Atlanta level, and I was right in the middle of it a couple of years ago. A couple? Maybe 12? At any rate, I was invited by a congregation in Atlanta to light one of the candles for Hanukkah. I was honored, felt privileged. The ceremony was going to take place in Centennial Park, downtown Atlanta. Not a lot of good reasons to go to downtown Atlanta, but that was one for me. So I studied up a bit on Hanukkah, by no means an expert, went on down there on the designated day, met up with the congregation, had a grand time with them. Good eats, by the way. They were in a little tent in the middle of Centennial Park, in case there was some adverse weather, bad time of year. And I noticed parked next to the tent was a City of Atlanta fire truck and one ambulance. Why? So I inquired and found out that the City of Atlanta had a regulation that if anybody was going to use an open flame in an event in Centennial Park or elsewhere, they had to have fire protection, a fire truck and an ambulance. This was a candle. One candle, fire truck, ambulance. You pay city taxes. You wonder where that money goes? Oh, my God, somebody might be lighting the candle on city property somewhere. Wow. Let's set out the ambulance. Let's get the fire truck on the road. That's the way to save money. Yeah, right. Neil Bortz, Extra 106.3.
This is Atlanta's new home for Fox News, Extra 106.3 FM.
Military veterans are eager to transfer their skills and experiences to civilian life, but lack trusted connections to expedite their path to success. The civilian world can be confusing, and veterans do not need to journey through it alone. When you reach out to the Warrior Alliance, we will guide you to the best-in-class resources that can lead you toward renewed purpose after serving our nation. Find out why thousands of warriors have found success after service after engaging with the Warrior Alliance. For assistance, go to thewarrioralliance.org or call 404-210-1776.
I'm Chad Pergram with the Speaker's Lobby. House Republicans may again struggle to elect a speaker on January 3rd. That's the start of the new Congress. House Speaker Mike Johnson emerges bruised from the recent government funding Donnybrook. Here's the math. The House clocks in at 434 members with one vacancy. On the Speaker's vote, the winner must win an outright majority of all members casting ballots for somebody by name. In other words, the person with the most votes does not win. That's what happened repeatedly to former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So let's crunch the math for Mike Johnson. He could only lose one vote. 218. A failure to elect a speaker right out of the block paralyzes the House. The House absolutely, unequivocally cannot do anything until it elects a speaker, period. The House can't swear in members. Technically, they're still representatives-elect. Only after the House chooses its speaker does he or she then in turn swear in the membership. If this bleeds into January 6th, the House cannot convene a joint session of Congress to certify the Electoral College. With the Speaker's Lobby, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Always a good day when you can say that liberals, the progressives, are outraged or alarmed over something.
Catch Neil's commentary every day on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app. Start your day the right way with Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra every morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on WFOM Marietta, Extra 106.3.
It's the day after in New Orleans. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We've got 100 military police officers that are on the ground. Our sheriffs from around the state have sent additional resources. The FBI has been pouring resources into this city.
Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry on Fox also offering condolences to the 15 people killed and dozens injured in the early New Year's Day terror attack when a driver drove a rented truck through a crowd on Bourbon Street.
Each of those is a reminder of the terrorism that exists and people and the evil out there that they want to inflict on America.
The driver was shot and killed by police.
42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, an Army veteran who at one point had deployed to Afghanistan. Police say an ISIS flag was found on that truck that he drove. Police in Houston, meantime, are searching what is believed to be the driver's home there, looking for any evidence and any possible links to a wider plot.
Fox's Doug Luzader. Police also found improvised explosive devices. Also part of the investigation, if there's any link to the explosion in Las Vegas, also early New Year's Day, when a cyber truck blew up outside the Trump International Hotel.
It is believed the driver was a Colorado Springs native with military experience. The person was killed in that explosion. 7 others were hurt. Authorities say they found gas and camp fuel canisters as well as large firework mortars in the truck.
Fox's Chanley Painter. Both trucks in New Orleans and Las Vegas were rented using the same service, Turo, which is like an Airbnb for private vehicles. The FBI will be briefing lawmakers this morning in the House the day before the next Congress takes over. With the House electing a new speaker, Mike Johnson hopes to retain the job, telling Fox,
I'm humbled and honored to have President Trump's endorsement for the role again, as well as the endorsement of leaders across the conservative spectrum and the Republican Party.
But at least one GOP lawmaker plans to vote against Johnson. Only one more Republican no vote will be a defeat for the speaker. America's listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. 800-893-2288. Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
No traffic, no big deal. It's the Morning Extra on 106.3.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra. Welcome to the show. Happy New Year to y'all. Appreciate you being here at 404-741-1230. The folks that have called in this morning, been a part of this discussion. You're always invited. You're always welcome. Add Extra 106.3 across the social media platforms, on the app, on the YouTube channel. Terrestrial, 106.3 FM, 1230 AM, and streaming at extra1063.com. There's so many ways to listen and interact with the Morning Extra and the radio station that whatever route you choose is fine with us. We would suggest the app being the best way to go, but however you want to do it will be just fine. Today, with all the story and the heavy discussions that we've had about New Orleans and about Las Vegas, and even the shooting in Queens, which at this point I've not read anything that said that they're connected, but man, it seems eerily similar to just kind of the things that have happened in the last day. Will we find out there's any connection there? Maybe, maybe not. We'll let you know as soon as we know anything. But at least we have Georgia football, y'all, to take your mind away from this for just a little while. Not completely, because that'll be a part of the discussion too, right? When politics and world events bleed into our pastimes.
I'm going to be curious as to how much coverage is going to be part of that 4:00 kickoff as part of ESPN, because they had a hard time during the Peach Bowl talking about what was going on with the Sugar Bowl, and finally they got around to it in about second quarter.
Yeah,
they talked about, hey, it's a terrorist attack. Here's what the plan is. Game looked like it's being postponed for 24 hours. To see how that's going to be a backdrop of what's going on this afternoon. You can listen to the game on our sister station, 680 The Fan. But I imagine both coverages, whether it's on radio or television, are going to have to get into the reason why this thing has been moved to 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, you don't have a choice in this matter. You don't have a choice in this matter. You need to speak to the people. You're going to be the highlight of the 4 o'clock day. You're going to have to address it. You're going to have to talk about what happened. You're going to have to be honest and truthful about it and not hide from it.
It'll be surface level.
You think so?
I do.
I think they're going to talk about the terrorist attack on New Orleans on New Year's Eve that claimed the lives of now 15 people. And now let's get to kickoff.
Yeah,
Wait, do you think
it will be very surface.
So, Doug, I know you thinking it surfaced? Do they even call it a terrorist attack, or do they call it a tragic event?
I'll tell you.
That'll be interesting. That's a
Credit
great
to
question.
Joe Tessitore.
Yes, who was really great.
On the Peach Bowl yesterday during the game, who got into it and did refer to it, not a truck that hit people. As
like the AP.
The AP
and ESPN
story.
Business
Joe
Insider
Tessitore flat out said this was a terrorist attack on the American homeland that at the time had killed 10 to 12 people. That's now the number is at 15.
I admire that bravery.
I do too.
Out of Joe Tessitore, and he's an exceptional broadcaster. I think he's super. He enunciates everything, and my son thinks I don't like him because I emulate him a lot when we're watching the game.
Yeah.
I think I got nicked occasionally because I'll get something in my head and I'll repeat it over and over and over again. If you know the Shane Gillis skit, you'll get that joke. But the thing is, like, I'm always... That's right. Did you cook that last night? It nicked me. It nicked me. That's exactly right. But I emulate Tessitore because he's so memorable in the way he delivers the game. A push forward. I mean, he annoys me.
Not bad, actually.
He annoys me.
He used to annoy me too, but I've actually kind of fallen in love with it.
No, it's too much.
It's too much. For a lot of people, it is, and I get it. It was for me for a long time. I don't think it was until my son thought I was making fun of him or didn't like him that I actually started liking him. Yeah. It was like, it has nothing to do. Like, I'm just fascinated by the way he delivers the game.
And by the way, credit as well to Laura Rutledge, who jumped from sideline reporter to reporter on the scene, gave you all the information, showed up on ABC News, started doing the hits on ESPN. That woman went from, I'm here to get the story on the game, to I'm giving you as much information I can from local authorities to tell you what's going on right now.
Yeah, and obviously with it being live and a lot of, information not being thrown out there as of yet, not a lot known about what had happened at 3 a.m, for them to start to uncover it and talk about it. Yeah, I mean, it was good. And there was a good balance. I thought there was a pretty good balance, but it's got to be part of the showcase today. They have to talk about this. They have to call it what it is. And I think it's important that we get away from that, too. And that's why, I hope that they talk about this.
Me too.
You could call it a domestic terrorist. I don't care what you call it. This is a terrorism attack. And they need to address that, because the more that we play these games and go, well, it was just a tragic event, or it was a car that ran through, it almost justifies what happens. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be on Sean McDonough, who's going to be calling the game to get into the intro. And keep in mind, this went from... initially when it was postponed, all right, 8:45. From everything I have gotten from my sources, because I had people in New Orleans, I was texting back and forth, and people that cover the team, initially Notre Dame and Georgia were both pushing for, we'll push it back. We'll play at 11 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
We'll do whatever we got to so we don't lose a day of preparation. It then turned into, well, what about 1 o'clock tomorrow? They're the ones that fought off the 8:45 deal, and it turned into 4 o'clock today. And so, like I said, credit to Laura Rutledge. This was all this moving target. You had the team officials, you had the FBI, you had city officials, and then you had people from the college football playoff system all trying to figure out what to do. That's why that date and time kept moving yesterday so much around the schedule of when this game was going to go on.
Please don't see this as a defense of ESPN. I hope they don't talk about it that much. This is my
I hope they start the game with it.
Yeah, get it right. State
it. Why this is going on this way.
Absolutely. State it, but I don't, again, this is not because the ESPN is low down dirt, owned by ABC. You know what you get with ESPN. That's the reason the incomparable Sage Steele left. But I don't want that to be the story. It's going to be part of the story. But I want the escape for the American people. I want the escape for myself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I want to watch the team that I love play ball. Yes.
That's what we wanted.
That's
I want
exactly
football tonight.
That's right.
Yeah. That's what I would love to see, I'll mention it first, and then, hey, sports brings us together, so allow sports to continue to bring us together. So many different diverse people going to celebrate Georgia, going to celebrate Notre Dame on each side. I get it. But you know what? This is a love that a lot of people have, so make it that. But it does need to be mentioned. It needs to be said, hey, this has been postponed because of this, blah, blah, blah. All our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that was injured, including the 19-year-old Georgia student who is in critical condition. tradition right now, blah, blah, blah. Let's get this game on. And I hope the celebration is about Gunnar Stockton and the players that play in this game and what happens there, because these are the storylines I wanted to see before all of this happened.
But that's why we call it the backdrop. I have a former coworker who's since passed. I worked with him in Dallas. This man went camping in Wyoming before 9/11. He came out of the woods, with his family, with his friends, like 4 days after 9/11, was like, what the hell happened?
Had no idea.
Had no idea
Wow.
because they were camping in a remote area, had no idea what had occurred. So part of this is, yes, you are, if you're listening to this, the 1%. You are plugged in, you know what's going on. There are going to be other people that are going, so I tuned in to watch this game. What the hell do you mean terrorist attack?
Yeah.
It sounds rare, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a handful. There's a handful of people out there, for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine, though. Like, this was supposed to happen last night. If you're tuning into the game, you know why you're tuning in at 4. Now, if you accidentally go on to ESPN to watch the Pat McAfee show and go, oh, my God, what happened to why is this game on now? Is this a replay? Then, yeah. But I still think the backdrop needs to be set.
I'll give you the example. When I showed my wife last night, check out this Cybertruck exploding in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. She said, when did that happen?
Yeah. Right. Well, because New Orleans, because it happened first and it had the backdrop of the game and just so many thousands of people traveling there. It's this sweetheart of this whole football, and the culmination coming down to the end. Vegas got looked over easily because the only person that died was the person that did it.
The person that did it, the driver.
In New Orleans, you have 15. It came first. It was easy to get looked over.
Yeah.
It absolutely was. Now, it would not surprise me at all that people don't realize that they're probably connected. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Not at all.
The military connection, the fact that we talked about sleeper cells in the United States and sleeper cells in our military that do exist. Telling you they do. You have to understand that. It's the most awful thing to say out loud, but it is the truth. That is something that we're going to have to deal with as well. Do I want to deal with it during the Georgia football game? No. But we may have to.
I'm looking forward to the distraction.
Yeah, that's it. Right, that's exactly right.
Because give me a little bit of that fun for 3 or 4 hours. And then by the time we hit about 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight, I'll be right back on my phone going, what have we found out about how this person was radicalized that made this attack in New Orleans?
And the manhunt that's happening right now.
And I don't think, look, I wouldn't be surprised if it was connected to New York and then connected to other events that might have happened that we didn't even hear about yet. Things that we might not know about. Mass shootings can be 3 to 4 people, but we don't know who's behind them all the time. And I wouldn't be surprised because these kind of situations, it is what you need to be on the lookout for. They can be small events, but that's how these terrorist cells work. They wait, they find, and they do. And it may not even be known until after. So, I think a lot of people are going to be nervous going into the game. I think that's going to be talked about a little bit as well. I think you're going to see a lot more empty seats than you would expect, of course, for a big game like the Sugar Bowl, because a lot of people had to maybe leave and come back so they could go to work the next day. Who knows? So I think you have to approach it in a responsible manner. But, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of things that are attached to the same, the same motive.
Another story that was so alarming, that was so unnecessary. I mean, there's so many ways to describe it, was the woman that was set on fire in the subway. She's been identified. And this can't be America. When you think about what happened in that subway and the fact that there were many different camera angles, people filming versus helping. This can't be America. Think about this. You got terror cells, sleeper cells that we're worried about. We're prosecuting heroes like Daniel Penny. Thankfully, he was acquitted. How in the world can this be America? Yet this is the Democrats' version of America. We dodged a bullet when Kamala Harris was not elected, but we took machine gun fire for the last 4 years. And this woman, Deborah Kwame, 57, had recently moved to New York City from Toms River in New Jersey. They say she had a brief stint in New York City's homeless shelter. That's according to Mayor Adams. They were able to identify her body. But this is the America that the Democrats have put us on the path for. This is the America that Barack Obama, I assume, envisioned. Certainly, he hated this country and still does. He read books about the failing America, the post-America world. And this is what we were headed for. I mean, we're already headed for, right, with Joe Biden, but we could have accelerated it even more with Barack Obama's fourth term with Kamala Harris in office. Thankfully, again, for a lack of a better term, we dodged a bullet, and now we can at least get off the freeway.
A free society is dependent on the civil society. Rule of law. That is what happens when you want to destabilize a country. What you do is you try and create as much crime, as much mayhem as possible. So to see somebody burning in a subway station in public and no one doing anything starts to erode your confidence in the entirety of society. It makes it easier for the communists to roll in and say, we'll fix this thing for you. And so, yeah, like the whole idea of lawlessness in our cities, that's by design.
Yeah, this is a George Soros billionaire design. That's what this is, and it continues that way. It starts a long time ago with Barack Obama and the division, but it also really took hold with the George Floyd situation where we took a bad person, a criminal, a drug addict, somebody who held a gun to his, the baby while it was still inside the pregnant mother. These kind of things and justifying them and making them okay, this is where we've come to. And then the fact that we don't prosecute, the fact that what's the worst that I'll do? 48 hours if I hurt someone? Violence is acceptable now in the Democrat Party? Violence is acceptable? No, this is a big, big problem. And you're right, we dodged a bullet. But have we? Because there are plenty of people out there who are still justifying it. Obviously, we still have the same people in power until January 20th, but how do we put a stop to it? Because it doesn't seem like we're trying to do anything to stop any of it.
Well, the American people decided to put a stop to it when they voted for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop immediately. That's why I say we got off the interstate, right? You're speeding down an interstate.
We went from 75 to 60.
Well, yes, right. But I think my greater point is the cliff was right there.
Sure.
Right? And there was nothing going to stop us. We voted for change, and it was a landslide victory for common sense. Common sense was the victor when Donald Trump was elected again, because we were able to get off the interstate and get away from the speeding cliff that we were speeding toward. Yes, it's going to be a long, hard road, because for the years that Barack Obama was the president, and then you had a brief stop with President Trump where things were at least better, and then for 4 more years with Joe Biden. So 12 of the last 16 were controlled by Democrats, and we see where we ended up with their policy decisions, with the things that they wanted to do. And I don't believe all Democrats had malice in their heart, but they were ignorant to what they were choosing in a minimum.
What makes you think this is going to get better? How are you going to stop it? Because you just allowed Biden and all the Democrats to confirm local judges that will allow this to continue. You have DAs that continue to fight, like Fani Willis, who allows this to continue. How are you going to stop it? Because I don't see any stop to it. I agree. Donald Trump did a good job in his first term in recognizing what needed to be done for the American people, but it didn't protect them in those manners, because Democrats will block all of that. They'll still allow these progressive DAs to put things in like, who cares if they steal 950? That's not that bad of an assault. Who cares if they light police equipment on fire?
Americans rejected it.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
Sure, except for that Fani Willis is still the DA, even though she was up for re-election, and that's
You're not going to fix it all in one fell swoop. You're right.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We need to get we got a mandate based on how the economy needs to move forward. But watch what happens when we say, hey, we're going to deport these criminals. There'll be fights, and we're losing because there are appointed judges that are still just as bad that will allow these people out. Fani Willis isn't going to stop those Atlanta Cop City people from lighting things on fire, and neither is Donald Trump. He doesn't have the ability to, because you have these people that won in these cities.
The cities are gone. You can have them.
Yeah, the cities are done.
That's all. You can look at the electoral map. You'll see tiny
where
piece
to choose
of blue.
to live.
There's
yes,
a little piece of blue. Everything else is red. The rest of the country has sanity. You get to keep the cities. Talked to this couple while I was in San Antonio. They were like, we lived in Atlanta for 1 year. They were like, it was crazy. We went to underground. I was like, that's your first mistake. They went to underground. But I told them, I go, you know what you had a problem with? I go, you were white and you walked into a liberal area thinking it was going to be friendly towards you. Yeah. Now, they didn't want to hear it, but that's the truth. You better give up the cities. You ain't fixing them.
How many death row inmates were just given commuted sentences by this administration? It's not going to change.
Wait,
they're gonna defend criminals forever.
It's going to be a fight. Let's not pretend I'm not saying it's not going to be a fight. Mm-hmm. But the American people rejected everything that has happened in the last 4 years. They did.
Yep. And you know what? I didn't see Mike Johnson or the Republicans standing up for what that mandate was when they had to fight to win.
I didn't say the politicians. I said the American people.
Yeah. Well, that does.
They've rejected everything that Biden and Obama represent.
And those are two completely different things.
Yeah.
A regular person and politicians. Politicians are not regular people.
Different. That's right.
Yep.
American people have rejected it. Will the fix happen overnight? Absolutely not. We are years.
Yep.
Decades.
But the American people are Daniel Penny, and look what happens when they do fight it.
Generations away from correcting what's been wrong in America. Daniel Penny fought, and he came out on the other side victorious. We will continue to fight, and I believe that we will come out victorious as well. When we continue on Extra 106.3, the left's goal is to destabilize the new Trump administration, to Rhino's point, before Joe Biden leaves office. We'll do that after headlines. Next on Extra 106.3. The Kimmer Show is only on Extra 106.3 every weekday afternoon on your drive home.
And also, I had one of my greatest flirting episodes ever this morning.
Which goes absolutely nowhere.
Which goes nowhere.
What's his name?
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Election season is here, and regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, we can all experience the stress of uncertainty. Fear of the unknown can cause us to postpone important decisions that impact our lives, especially in retirement planning. Resist hesitation and contact Masterplan Retirement Consultants, a holistic retirement planning firm dedicated to creating a retirement plan to help with all of life's surprises. Through income planning and money management, legacy planning, and tax planning, we create a plan specifically designed for your life to see you to and through retirement. Don't leave your retirement up to chance. Create a plan for your retirement and pursue peace of mind. Visit masterplanretire.com. Masterplan Retirement Consultants. Plan well and prosper.
Advisory services offered through Masterplan Retirement Consultants, Inc., a registered investment advisory in the state of Georgia. Insurance, tax, and commodity services offered through Fricks & Associates, Inc., DBA Masterplan Retirement Consultants. The aforementioned are affiliated companies.
Neil Borch here. Maybe you've already taken the steps to improve your health, maybe save your life. You're using a CPAP for your sleep apnea. I've been using one for well over 20 years. So right now, I'm here to tell you about a source for CPAPs and CPAP supplies here in the Atlanta area. CPAPs, etc. They're in Alpharetta. They have whatever you need. Roddy and Sharon are your CPAP experts, and they'll ship nationwide. More information, cpapsetc.com.
For half a century, glyphosate has affordably and effectively protected Georgia farmers' crops from invasive weeds. Without it, the impact would be felt beyond the fields, hitting Americans where it hurts, our wallets. That's why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for farmers' continued access to essential crop protection tools, so food prices don't rise even more. Get the facts at controlweedsnotfarming.com. Paid for by the Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
This is House Call for Health. January is Glaucoma Awareness Month. The National Eye Institute says the disease can cause vision loss and blindness, which can't be reversed. What happens is that fluid in the eyes builds up, which then increases pressure and damages the optic nerve. The optic nerve transfers visual images to your brain. It is possible to save your vision or prevent further vision loss with early detection and treatment. But unfortunately, there are no early symptoms or warning signs. There's no pain or discomfort or blurry vision. And that's why regularly scheduled eye and vision checkups are important. During the checks, an eye care professional will place drops in your eyes to widen the pupils and check the optic nerve for signs of glaucoma. 3 million Americans have it and half don't know it. Those at higher risk are African Americans over 40 years old and adults in general over 60. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your top stories in the state of Georgia for today, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. The University of Georgia has confirmed that a 19-year-old student was critically injured in the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on Wednesday morning. The student, identified as El Izel, remains in critical condition in the hospital. The attack by 42-year-old Shamuddin Jabbar claimed 15 lives and left 35 people injured. The suspect was killed by police following a gunfight. The city of Atlanta played host to the most exciting college football quarterfinal game yesterday afternoon in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 5 Texas overcame 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter to beat number 4 Arizona State 39-31 in 2 overtimes. The Longhorns will move on to take on number 8 Ohio State, who routed number 1 Oregon 41-21 in last night's Rose Bowl game. And the Georgia Bulldogs will take the field this afternoon against number 7 ranked Notre Dame after the Sugar Bowl was delayed from the New Orleans terrorist attack early Wednesday morning. The winner of this afternoon's game will move on to the Orange Bowl to take on Penn State in Miami. Kickoff from New Orleans scheduled for 4 p.m. With your headlines, Scott Rhino, Extra 106.3.
9 o'clock hours brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your home exterior solution since 1999, based in Jackson, Georgia, big enough to take care of all of Metro Atlanta. They'll have a foreman on site for you. Windows, doors, gutters, roof, siding. They can build you a deck. They can put a screen on the deck. You already have whatever you want. Southern Exteriors is the way to go. 8779 Southern, southernexteriors.co.
But not a dungeon.
Not a dungeon. I don't think
dungeons.
No, that's interior. That'd be inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to talk to Joe about building me a dungeon.
Oh, well, Joe might be able to. I mean,
what kind of dungeon we talking?
Restrictive.
Restrictive?
Yeah.
Chains on the walls?
No, nothing that crazy. But just a dungeon.
Just a dungeon?
Like, doesn't it
You got
scream
bars?
Like, you'll get a bucket at least.
Yeah, like, doesn't it scream, I'm serious if I got a dungeon? If you tell people, like, I have a dungeon in my home.
Yeah, I would seriously stay
you
away
have
from
a moat.
Some cobblestone?
Right, wouldn't you have a dungeon?
I don't.
I want a dungeon.
I don't. Yeah,
at Tug Castle Manor?
I don't want a dungeon. No.
Okay.
I like to be maybe an extra table, an extra chair at the
Maybe
table.
a screened-in porch.
Yeah, something they can hang out in and not have to.
Maybe
worry
an
about.
outdoor fireplace.
Yeah, something like that. That's I mean, if I'm choosing, that would be
to
what
each
I
his own.
choose. Yes, exactly. And I don't think less of you because you want a dungeon. I find it odd, but I don't think less of you.
I kind of think more of you.
Thank you.
Joe, all right. Fine, fair enough. But Southern Exteriors can do it. Not a dungeon, but the rest of the things that we mentioned. They can do those things. You got the Biden administration. We talked about it just briefly earlier in the week, selling off, parts of the border wall. Of course, that's been stopped now, thank goodness. And the company that actually bought them, we're going to sell them back for the exact price that they paid for the pieces, $1 each. They did not want to be identified. They didn't want to be. They didn't want any press or any credit for doing that. But it's just part of the destabilization that Joe Biden and the Democrats, because Joe didn't know what he's doing. He has dementia. The Democrat Party and the puppet masters, I assume Barack Obama and people like him, are trying to do is destabilize the Trump administration. It's the same thing, Los, with sending $5 more billion to Ukraine in a losing fight.
As much as the Democrats want to complain about January 6th and everything that January 6th was, it caused all this. January 6th was largely created for you not to ask questions about an election that was pretty bogus. Like, can we all now just say 81 million votes in 2020 was as bogus as it gets? The Democrats routinely get about 55 million votes. It pushes to about 65, 67 million tops. They never jumped to 81 million. No one ever has. It was completely bogus. So that was what that was. But I don't recall an administration, Trump or otherwise, that during this time period, their lame duck time period, has done more to try and cause problems for the next administration. Like, they've pulled out every single stop to try and create some sort of chaos and some sort of mayhem before the next group, because they hate them. They hate Donald Trump and his group.
Yeah, they hate Donald Trump. Let's be real. They like some of the establishment Republicans. They hate Donald Trump, and they want to see failure because they know. Now, this isn't something they just came up with. This has been a plan going on for, 3.5, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, knowing that Donald Trump was in power. They knew this. This is why they did what they did with the debt ceiling, giving them the ability to raise it right up until Donald Trump takes over so they could spend, and then he'd have no way to recover. They are setting us up for the biggest economical failure in history, and it's going to take, and it's not going to be good. We're going to struggle with the economy. They're going to try to blame Donald Trump. We're already struggling with the border. That hasn't changed. They're still coming across, and they're still getting incentives to come across. We're in big trouble because of what Biden and the Democrats have done to this country.
I had a beach house in Florida, and the very first one that I ever purchased, it had a tenant that was in it. And he was an employee of the bank. And the bank was allowing him to stay in this property and rent it at a reduced cost. Well, so when we bought it, he initially sends a request over to us. Hey, can I stay in here? I'd like to continue paying this this reduced amount. And we said, no, this is what we want. He proceeded to trash the house. So when we got there, I was like, oh my God, we have to replace the carpets. We have to replace this. We have to repaint the walls. The toilets were a mess. Like everything was a mess. Joe Biden and his administration is basically trashing the house before turning it over to you. And it's only done out of spite. That guy did it strictly out of spite.
Yes. But the crazy thing is, I think, yes, it is spite. Of course. We lost. We're not.
Don't be angry at me. Be angry at your own party. They're the ones that ran you out.
That's exactly right. But I think it's more. I would say it's more than spite. It is evil. Hatred. Some of that too. Yes. Hatred of traditional America. Hatred of traditional values. Hatred of everything that they believe to be wrong with America. Now they're spiteful now because they lost, and you're right. They should be mad at themselves for doing the things that they've done. But that's who they are. They're so angry that they're not able to drive America off that proverbial cliff that they'll do anything that they can out of spite to make sure that this is the toughest job that Donald Trump and the American people have ever faced.
Well, yeah. No, I think it's important that you said drive off the cliff because that's what they want. They fundamentally want to destroy America and to try to rebuild it in their image of what they think America should be. And it's not. That's why they use the term democracy instead of republic. That's why they do the things that they continue to do. That's why they have progressive DAs trying to fundamentally change the way we think about crime and criminals and say, oh, we got to look into this criminal and see why they are. No, we need to punish them. If you want to look into it and figure out how to stop it, that's fine. But stop giving them these free passes. And that's what Democrats have done fundamentally from, city to, state to country. They've destroyed everything they can. Now they know, hey, the Republicans actually are going to be really good on the economy. They're going to do what we're supposed to do with the Constitution. We've got to stop them and make it as hard as possible for them to get things done. That's why you appointed all the judges. That's what the fight's been. That's why they try to change the Supreme Court. That's why they continue to do the things they do.
And they will until the minute they're out of the office. That whole charade that Joe Biden and the Democrats coordinated where they invited Donald Trump to the White House, and they're talking about how we're going to make this an easy transition, help you any way we can. Do you remember Joe Biden doing this?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought for a moment, I was like, wow, that's something I didn't expect to see. And my gut was right. That was for show. That's all that was for. We're going to make this as complicated as we can. We're going to screw America any way we can.
This points to what I've been saying. Who's in charge? Because I firmly believe Joe and Jill Biden were like, let's bring him on in here. This is who we're backing. This is where we hate the Democrat Party.
We voted for him anyway.
They ran us out of here.
We voted for him anyway.
And then when the rubber hits the road, who is in charge? Joe's staff. And what are they doing?
Yeah, they're making it challenging. But
the dementia patient doesn't know what's going on.
He has no idea. He has no idea what's going on. All that part is correct.
You know what? If they were to tell me that, he hasn't made a decision in 4 years, I believe it now. Yeah. I mean, I believed it then anyway, but now even more than ever, the staff behind. But that's the way Democrats operate. They always have. Think about Dianne Feinstein. She didn't make it. Look, they even had someone who was dead from Florida. that was not like, oh, okay, mentally brain dead in a home, still voting.
Yeah.
That's what they do. It's not about those figureheads that they get elected. It's about the staff behind it, these progressives that keep pushing through and pushing votes, even though the actual representative can't vote.
This was early 2024. And the reason I remember it's because I was listening back on the show on my way to North Carolina. And next week we go to the same tournaments. That's how I remember it's been a year. When the discussion from one of our liberal listeners, when he called in and made it a point, how when we said, well, listen, Joe's not running this thing. And he made a point, well, I'm more comfortable with the group. And I said, wait a minute, they're not elected. And it was this comfort level of, well, as long as the Democrats are in control. I'm like, well,
they're going to do what I want them to anyway.
But you didn't vote for this. You didn't vote for the reason why you vote for a person is because they're accountable to you. You didn't vote for a bureaucracy. Yet the mentality was, I'm fine as long as the Democrats are in charge. Well, the cool part was this time around, America wasn't cool with the Democrats as a bureaucracy being in charge.
That's exactly right. They voted against it.
But they prey on that, don't they? They prey on those kind of people who think, because that's what the Democrats want. They want you to think you need the government in order to live. You need the government to make, your life decisions for you. And you find those liberals that are fine with that. Look, I don't want to work. That's fine. Do whatever you want. I'll fall in line. Tell me what to do, what to say. And that's been the biggest problem. And I'm glad most of America spoke up. But don't think there's not still, a huge selection of them that will continue down this path that have been so broken that they'd actually drive through a parade of people because they've been so broken.
They want it to be as challenging as they can. They will work every day to derail Donald Trump and any possibilities that they see in front of them that they can and they have control over to make it harder for America, make it harder for Trump, make it harder for you as an American. Donald Trump has said he fully endorses Speaker Johnson. And we talked about this a little bit, Rhino, Monday and Tuesday. I don't know what Donald Trump has planned, but I know Donald Trump has met with him. We know they've been together in Mar-a-Lago. So there were serious discussions, negotiations back and forth. I don't believe Donald Trump would have just left him in there willy-nilly. So I assume Mike Johnson is going to fall in line and do the things that the American people have asked Donald Trump to do.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so, because he didn't. Even, when Donald Trump told him, hey, this is my guy, this isn't the first time. Even before the election, he was talking about Mike Johnson and giving him that opportunity. Now they're going to meet at Mar-a-Lago. They haven't met yet, but they will meet. And why is Donald Trump bringing him in there after endorsing him? Well, it's got to be, in my mind, I am hoping and praying that it's, hey, Mike, here's what needs to be done, because the debt ceiling needs to be raised in order to save this country and be able to save the dollar. This is what needs to be done. Oh, well, we all hate it. Unfortunately, all these uniparty people have caused this to the point where you don't have a choice but to get these things done. Separating appropriation bills. We have time now because Biden's already got it to expire. There's no way to get the debt ceiling raised unless we actually put in legislation. Now it's going to be, Mike Johnson, you got to listen to the constituents.
I'm so bothered by this.
Me too.
Because it goes against my core belief of what is supposed to happen and the accountability that I want out of politicians, especially even a speaker. When I look at what the plan has been and how it's been done and how it's been underhanded, I'm fortunate that at least we have Donald Trump and Elon Musk and everyone else who raised a stink about it so that we could at least cut down some of the stuff that was going on with the continuing resolution down to a handful of pages versus 1,400, 1,500, whatever it was. But normally that's supposed to cause you to look at Speaker Johnson and say, okay, that's your ass. Mm-hmm. But it's not.
Yeah, there's no accountability.
And it doesn't actually help the upcoming administration if you turn it into his ass.
And that's the thing that drives me crazy.
Right.
Talking about not doing the things that the American people voted for, the ones that said enough. And Mike Johnson hasn't. He's not held up the stop sign. He's not done anything that the American people, I feel like the American people want. So I'm saying Donald Trump has to have something planned. I know they've been in communication solidly.
It's got to be legislation. That's what they got to have planned. They have to plan and say, hey, here are the bills that need to be done. Here's what needs to be separated. Here's where we need to stop this. Because in reality, Donald Trump went out and blamed Kevin McCarthy for the debt ceiling raise that Democrats were allowed to do. That kind of put us in this trouble and printing money anyway. So he's already blamed that on McCarthy. And even though he came out, and it was a really good, responsible, response from Trump that, hey, Kevin McCarthy's a good guy. I like him. We're friends. But this was a stupid political mistake. And it was, because it gave Democrats, again, just going back to what we were saying, a way to destabilize what was about to come. So now you have to get Mike Johnson to sit here and you have to say, hey, you've got to listen to what we need to get done. And you can't take Democrats and let them bargain or let them use, because what they did was, reality, they're the ones that sunk the government funding bill. But they did it because they knew they could blame Republicans in the infighting there. Mike Johnson has to be on the same page with Trump, and they have to get everybody on the same page to get things through. It's got to be about legislation at this point.
What's your biggest problem? What's your biggest enemy? Right now, Speaker Johnson goes down the list for me. As much as if you are to hurt the legislation that Donald Trump wants to get through, okay, now you go up that list of, all right, you got to go.
You restore yourself.
But as it stands right now, I got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, we don't have time for fighting again.
Not right now.
Get it done and do what Trump wants.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
College football playoff semifinals are almost set. 6-seed Penn State beat 3-seed Boise State 31-14 on New Year's Eve. Here at Atlanta at the Peach Bowl, Texas defeated Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. They'll take on 8-seed Ohio State, who trounced the 1-seed Oregon 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. 2-seed UGA takes on 7-seed Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl today at 4. Catch it on our sister station 680 The Fan after staying tuned here on Extra 106.3.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra, and a quick note for you from a protege of front office Los, Olivia Sayer. You can find her Olivia K. Sayer on Twitter. She just reported that Brock Bowers has made the Pro Bowl, making the Dogs and Dog Nation proud.
Super talented young lady.
So good. So very good.
So very talented.
And let me tell you, and if you're a fan of like Georgia baseball like I am, she covers Georgia baseball. She covers Georgia basketball. She covers Georgia. Anything UGA sports, she's on top of.
Need you to be an early adopter. Start following her. You're going to like where her career's going. It's going to be big.
Olivia K. Sayer. At Olivia K. Sayer is where you can find her. When we come back, New Year's Eve, the gag that got caught right in front of every communist-loving journalist, and man, did it catch them off guard. We'll get a laugh with you as we wrap up the Morning Extra after a heavy morning of just tough-to-swallow news. We'll get a laugh to wrap the show next on Extra.
Monday, the 20th. President Donald Trump is officially sworn in as President of the United States. And Extra 106.3 will bring you live coverage of the inauguration and everything that happens next. There will be a lot of changes and breaking news in the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second presidency. And Extra will have live updates from the biggest personalities in the country and the local legends you know and trust. For the breaking news without the spin, there's only one place you can talk about it. Extra 106.3 FM.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
What do your home and auto both have in common? They're yours, and Progressive protects them both. Bundle today today at progressive.com.
Look out. I think your health insurance premiums just went up again. Hey, it's the Kimmer. How's it going? Hey, I got great news. If you're tired of those skyrocketing health insurance premiums, introducing Trump Care. If you're healthy and self-employed, small business owner, close to Medicare, even on a COBRA plan, Health Insurance Doctor's got you covered. How about saving up to 60% on annual premiums with Trump Care plans? Nationwide PPO network. Let you see any doctor, any hospital, plus zero deductibles, no co-pays. The best part, plans are available year-round. No more open enrollment, no hard-to-get subsidies, no IRS penalties. Oh, guess what? It's free to you. You don't have to pay them to do it. The Health Insurance Doctor for decades, proudly serving the metro Atlanta area. Thousands of happy customers. Here's a free number to get a quote, 678-523-0759. Visit healthinsurancedoctor.net. Here's the number again. Again, there's no charge to you, 678-523-0759. On the web, healthinsurancedoctor.net.
It's January 2nd, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. It's National Personal Trainer Day, and for many of us, we'll be making our resolutions for the new year. The most common, exercise more or lose weight. So if you plan to hit the gym, make sure to use the hashtag Personal Trainer Awareness Day on your social media account. Also on this date, Georgia became the fourth state to ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1788. President Richard Nixon imposed a speed limit of 55 on the nation's highways in 1974. It was a response to the spike in oil prices as well as supply disruptions in 1973. The musical Annie put on its final performance in 1983 after nearly 6 years and more than 2,300 performances. If it's your birthday today, you share it with legendary science fiction writer Isaac Asimov, born in 1920, and Beverly Hills 90210 star actress Gabrielle Carteris, born in 1961. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
Extra 106.3 is proud to continue on as the conservative voice of Atlanta.
We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
The Morning Extra, The Kimmer Show, Neil Bortz, local and national decision makers are all keeping it straight on the road toward the new Trump administration. This is Extra 106.3 FM and streaming across Georgia on the Extra 106.3 app.
Man, this was a lickety-split 4 hours. I mean, it has flown by. There's so much to talk about and so much concern about our nation and where we're headed, what happens next, how do we prevent what happens next. All of the things that you have questions about, that we have questions about, have been discussed this morning. And thank you for being here and being a part of it. Thank you for the folks that called at 404-741-1230. Thank you for the folks that interacted on social media. At Extra 106.3, Know It All Mom, at Know It All Mom, Stephanie up and coming. We had Goat Redneck Poet who was in there, and so many others. But just know that we appreciate the fact that you care enough about this country and are willing to engage with us to discuss it, because it matters. This discussion matters. As much as I love Georgia football and my coworkers down the hall at 680 The Fan, the things that they discuss are irrelevant in the grand scheme. Are they a good escape? Yes. Am I coming down on them like Neil Bortz does? You should never talk about sports. Sports is stupid. No. But in the grand scheme, when you compare the discussions that we have on Extra and the discussions they have down the hall, one matters, the other really doesn't. So that's my thought for this first full day in January for 2025. That's the way I feel about it.
It's your closing thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's right. Yes, I didn't even think of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, like the Springer final thought.
That's right. We just had the craziness of your Jerry Springer show, and now you get your final thoughts.
Yeah, right. But it's not actually the end of the
bow on this.
Yeah, that's right. But it's not the end of the show, because we still got to get a laugh in. Whitney Cummings, the comedian, left the Communist News Network with their jaws on the table.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off? Go for it. It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh, God.
Okay.
Andy just gave me a very scary look.
Oh, God. No! That was New Year's Eve night on CNN.
That was the moment. And we've pointed out the numbers. I think it ends up being like $9 billion in ad revenue is what Big Pharma spends with so many of these networks. So the moment that Whitney Cummings, who her job was to roast 2024 and CNN listeners and viewers, by the time she goes after Big Pharma, of course you have Andy and the rest of them looking at him like, you can't say that.
No.
Yeah, because
waving their hands. No.
When you're watching, and I got sucked into watching CNN. It was the only live, coverage of the ball dropping in New York, and so I was like, I'll watch it. And their programming was to be gay. As gay as they could, like that's what they were programming towards. So to have her come out, it just blow their minds. I mean, they're having a good time drinking, having a good, they were happy, they were doing their thing, and they were, they were being as liberal as they possibly could, and it just became a disaster. And then she comes out, and it was the only highlight really of their entire show.
I watched the CBS Big Bash hosted by Keith Urban.
Yeah.
It was all from Nashville.
See, I couldn't get that on. We were trying.
So awesome. It was so good. But of course, that's where I was going to end up. We flipped over a couple times to Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, hosted by Georgia's Ryan Seacrest. And there was a few country artists on there. Megan Maroney, who's from Douglasville.
Yeah.
Thomas Rhett, who's from South Georgia. And somebody else that was on there. But regardless, I was trying to stay away from anything that made me think.
They didn't have Lainey Wilson?
Lainey was on the CBS Big Bash.
Yeah. Why did I go over there?
Because
we couldn't
you
get
missed
them
her.
on.
She was shaking her tail feather.
Yeah.
That would
we
be
were streaming them. We couldn't get to them. But
streaming them on what?
I don't know. Like Hulu. We were trying to look for Paramount Plus, which I have. Peacock, which I have. ABC
You don't
didn't
got an
have
antenna?
anything.
We had Dick Clark is what was on at the house that we were at. So
Man,
we
I
were
couldn't
watching
find
his
it.
rockin' New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
We wanted that. But I got to see Whitney. I got to see, Diplo, who on CNN again, just talking about being on LSD, high as can be, while they were having a live
Seems like
interview.
you got a pretty good show.
I got a good show out of it.
In the end.
It was gay.
I did like seeing Anderson Cooper take a shot and the look on his face of like, whoa, I remember my first shot. Like he just was like, like the look on his face. I was like, dude,
it was uncomfortable, man.
You're not supposed to make that face after you take a shot. I don't care what the shot is.
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of shot that I could take that would make me make that face.
Well, seeing Andy Cohen talk about, because they did like a Good Night Moon and they read like things that happened and they tried to make it funny and it wasn't. Andy Cohen's funnier than Anderson Cooper, obviously, but it just fell flat. And then to hear them and then of course there's Hak Tilla, and I'm like, this is so weird.
So lame.
Yeah.
Talking about 15 minutes.
I wish I would have found the country one on. I was trying.
Being done. Yeah, that's that 15 minutes of fame.
I'm so glad Whitney.
Over.
I want to hear Whitney Cummings way more now.
Yeah, right.
Well, the rug pool certainly didn't help her cause. When the Hawk Tua girl takes you for like $100, and people for a bunch of money
with the crypto thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I know about rug pools because I watched it on National Geographic.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but the thing is, for her, she doesn't have talent. She doesn't have ability. There's nothing there past
They tried to tell us she's funny though,
but she's not.
That's not funny to you?
No, not even a little bit.
It had its
not
time.
at all.
Yeah, for 15 minutes.
Yes,
and we're about 2.5 hours later.
And she got her money out of it.
She did.
And then she
ripped off some people.
And then she ripped off some people allegedly. And then she moves on.
Yes,
that's all. Listen,
and goes back to Clarksville, Tennessee.
I'm going to do the exact same thing to everyone.
I want to.
Rip everybody off?
I'm going to rip everybody off with my crypto scam. I'm going to take all my money and I'm heading south.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sail town with billions of dollars, and I'll be like, "Ha ha, got you all."
The lowest coin,
the lowest coin. You bought it.
And
I pumped up the value, and then I pulled out all the money.
8-bit running. That's the way to do it.
It's not gonna be the Dogecoin. It'll be the lowest coin.
The lowest coin. I like it, man. I don't know, man.
I like that idea.
All right, predictions for Georgia Notre Dame. And on a good note.
I think Georgia, I think Gunnar Stockton's going to have a career day. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback from here on out.
Oh,
I think Georgia's a better team. They're bigger. They're stronger. They're one of the toughest defenses to get around. I like it.
Can Georgia handle the Notre Dame run game the same way they did with Texas? Because that was the difference in those two matchups. Texas ended up running for an average of 1.5 yards per carry in their two matchups. If they can shut down the Notre Dame run game that does include their quarterback, I think they win this thing like 23-21.
Yeah. Port up, Goey Virgin River.
I kind of like Notre Dame. Depending on what your offensive line scheme is against Michael Williams, could really be the proving point
Do
for
you
them.
know
And
what's the line?
It's 1.5.
Yeah. 1.5. Oh man, I take Georgia by 7 at least. I think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be as close as people think.
Do you know the last time that Notre Dame won one of these games as far as BCS, a playoff?
It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
It's been since the 90s against Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Man.
And they keep getting put in because obviously they're Notre Dame. But we're going back 30 years since they won a game of this magnitude, of this size. Clearly, obviously, they were able to beat Indiana in a playoff game. But we're talking like when you show up.
Are you saying they're due? Or no?
I just think that if you're telling me that somehow this Notre Dame team is different, I've been told the same thing for 30 years.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Georgia about 2 touchdowns.
Oh,
go Dogs.
I'm with you.
Go Dogs. That's
Good
what
call.
We'll see if I'm right. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe it's hopeful thinking. Or maybe it's Notre Dame can't pass the ball. They have to run the ball. And if, like Lo said, if Georgia stops them the way that they did Texas, dude, it's Georgia's game. That's the way that's what I think about it. But that'll do it for us. Glad that you're here. Thank you. 9 o'clock hour brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your home exterior solution since 1999. Doors, windows. They do siding. They do roofs. They do decks. They do it all.
January 1st, 1993. Last time they were in a Cotton Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, and won this bowl game.
Against A&M, you said?
Against A&M. January 1st, 1993.
How about them Dogs? I got the Dogs. Dogs by 100. Give me 100. There we go. All right. Y'all make it a great day. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Hey, it's the Kimmer. Look out. The Kimmer Show is live every afternoon from 3 to 6, just like the Kimmer.
An exchange of emails occurred today I'd like to share with you.
All right.
The first comes from one of our bosses who shall go nameless. I think you call him Steve.
Yeah.
A kind-hearted email of good cheer that reads, look forward to seeing most of you at the holiday party tomorrow night. Now, most people would have smiled a warm smile and carried on with their day after reading such a nice message. But this is radio, and there are 2 ways you could interpret this. You could read it to look as, I look forward to seeing most of you at the holiday party. Some of you can't make it, but most of you can. Or you could read it like, I look forward to seeing most of you at the holiday party. So someone, also nameless, quickly responded, who are the folks you're not looking forward to seeing?
Could you name them for me, please?
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.